was on mute. Okay, so I have been doing like the absolute like most ridiculous shit.
God, those communists are amazing.
Hey, thanks, Meat Wings. What's up? Okay, so before we do learning stuff, we're gonna go over Twitter drama. I am so glad you're here, Sarah. Like, oh my god. You have no idea like what I have freaking done. So stupid. Hi Gummy Buddhist. Hi Sarah. Hi Meat Beans. Thank you. Hi Discount Seth Rogen. Extremists is very difficult, but not impossible. Also, you can defang snakes. Oh wait, no, that's not the one. There's one dude in here who starts the whole thing. Where is it? It's like in one of these like little sub-thread thingies. Here. Please provide proof that they are white supremacists, because I have plenty of proof that they aren't. Boogaloo enthusiast. Get Ben, sweetie. That I'm sweaty. I'm very nice on the internet. You guys know. Okay. And so the Boogaloo come here because I feel like they were tagged. Boogaloo means race war Dumbo. So it's just like this person, Kitty, like saying that they aren't because she's met them. Oh God, I can't find the place where it happened at. This is annoying. Well, either way, this... Oh wait, maybe it's in the quote tweet? Okay, here we go. Here's the stuff. Okay, so here's Caboose. Before, Caboose had a fucking little Hawaiian Boogaloo flag in his thing. I got high. I ran the numbers. 15.49 of my Twitter followers are the direct result of Twitch. Not sure what to do with this. Me neither, buddy, but hey, more friends. Yeah, I noticed you're on one. I agree with this pick. Yeah, I agree with the pick too. I still agree with the pick after, oh my god, I just haven't even gotten into the whole thing that I've done yet. The entire timeline is basically unironic J-Reg ideology. And all the comments are essays. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Okay. I would ideally have a commune. I don't know the nuance to say ancom or ansoc or some other insignificant fairy tale suffix. And then Comic-Con's like, capitalists cannot possibly be anarchists. It is impossible, as capitalism requires hierarchy and anarchists.
God, those communists are amazing.
Hey, thank you, Satrin. Welcome in. It's good to have you here. We're going over beef. Oh, hi. Okay, so FYI, I'm gonna like jump ahead a little bit. This is Caboose, the person that we're talking about right now. He is an ex-Boogaloo. If you do not want to interact with him, I ask that you block him now. Block the ex-Boogaloo if you don't want to interact with him.
God, those communists are amazing.
But he is not a Boogaloo anymore. He has dropped that. And we will go over why. Like we're gonna do the whole thing. We're doing the drama. Okay? Thank you, Swifty Shades of Jake, for subbing. You are so awesome. Dropping the Boog title for like 2 days doesn't automatically make you a comrade. You're right. It absolutely doesn't. So if you do not want to interact with him, that is 100% fine. Yeah. But, yeah. We're gonna continue to go over this. Just want to let you guys know. He is in the chat. It isn't possible, as capitalism requires hierarchy and anarchists are fundamentally fighting hierarchy. Basic day one shit. You waving your gads, I can't even say that, gads, you know the flag, and hanging out with your we the people constitutionalist buddies are ignorant clowns. Nice poem by Comic-Con. I'm not a capitalist. Gadskin is a fuck government, or fuck off government. Hey, what's up, Sweden official? Thanks for following. I got like a dozen different flags. Sorry, I don't require people to work with me to be in a study hall first. And so, okay, you're gonna find out that I don't know if you're gonna be surprised or not, but like. I got like a new couch situation. Okay. So you're gonna find, I don't know if you're gonna like be surprised or not, but like the running theme is that like, I mean, the Boogaloo do not read. Like they don't like to. Some do, and then they read like Ayn Rand and like fucking like ridiculous shit like that. Somebody, one of the Boog literally suggested that I read 1984. I was like, oh, okay. So, okay. What up, Southern Socialism? Hey!
God, those communists are amazing.
Oh shit, is there a hype train? Thanks. What's up? Hi, Southern Socialism. Fuck what? Russia, I need Swedish national song. Who's got the beef? I have the beef. I have the beef, Fonwall. Also, welcome in. It's good to see you. I have the fucking beef. Seriously though, this is too much. Again? My God. It is tragic. 1984 is the best theory. Some kind of anarchist they are. Suggesting reading books written by FBI informants. It goes so well when they just actually want to talk calmly. Shit's feral. Yeah, it does. It does. They just need to calm down. And like they're reactionaries, okay? So the core like ideology of the Boogaloo is like anti-government, contrarian, reactionary, libertarian ANCAP mess, right? Ugh, it's terrible. And all of it is basically coming from movies, comic books, and the United States education system. So it's bad. It's bad. It's not good. It's not great. I've seen some of it. You've always got beef. Yeah, I got the beef. Yes. I can actually hang out tonight. Yes, Siggy, that's nice. Tumblr taught me that you can just tell any European, I'll annex you and they'll back off. Nice. Hi, Bonewall. Tanky. You know, because Orville was an informant. Yeah, totally. Wait, where is my emote wall? Things are less fun. Add. Where is it? Okay, somebody do the emotes. Do some emotes. There we go. Huh. Alright. Bouncy. Alright. They are Dale Gribble. Yes! Yes! They are all Dale Gribble. And like some of them are Joe. Yes. Okay, cool. So, here I am being so fucking sweet. He's like, I don't know how those conflict. And I was like, that's literally the problem. You don't know too much of anything. Because I'm a jerk. And then he said that they were like emotional words, and I was like, that's absolutely incorrect. Whoa, big if true. We were just being like so sweet. It was really good. It was good stuff. Where else did it go? Oh, there you are shouting out Mike. Okay, hold on. Let me find... Where else? Okay, so then I said, if you are a capitalist, then you are not an anarchist. He's like, but I'm not a capitalist, though. I was like, are you anti-capitalist? Because that's what I do, is I interrogate people on the internet. And also, look at this ratio. That's a nice ratio. Thank you. I know, I'm such an authoritarian. I want to force you to have healthcare. I want you to like it too. It was pretty rough. I just wanted people to talk. Yeah. Caboose is like the only one, like, just like not being a jerk. And like, okay, so that continues. He's like, I mean, explain it. I might line up. And I was like, you don't know what it means to be a capitalist? Capitalism is a system in which private individuals and businesses own the capital, not the regular people, which means us regular people are getting exploited while the capitalists make millions. Capitalists would call that corporatism, but I'm saying I've never heard the term anti-capitalist. Sounds like someone controlling my labor, so anti-capitalist would be authoritarian, which is not super great. People should be able to do what they want. And I'm like, ah! Because I fucking hate fucking hate when people use the word authoritarian. They're so stupid because they mean authoritarian for me and not for you, right? Bruh, I know. So I cannot let this stand. And yeah, and then I go in a little harder. Oops, I'm sweet. Remember that. I was like, no, capitalism is authoritarian if you must use that label, which I don't think you should, since you really have the most rudimentary idea of these concepts for someone so loud. Oh, man, when you play dumb, you go full method after, don't you? Oh my god. We were so rude. Okay. And then I must have quote tweeted him somewhere. I don't know what happened. Yes, you are. Anarchism is just when you do whatever you want. Nice. Where the heck? Who else quote tweeted him? Where the hell? Dang it. Okay, here we go. And then anarchist lab Sean gets into it. Fuck boogs. Nice ratio. Sounds pretty fash to me. Sounds fash to not like racist. A clown that stumbled out of the circus tent to come at me with some dopey white people shit. Pwned. Sorry. That happened. That was good. Sounds pretty racist. You can't be racist to white people. I don't know why Sal is bothering. It took me one tweet for you to say some silly garbage. That's pretty silly saying something is racist than saying it's not racist because of the race it targets. Okay. Which, we have gone over this, and he understands now. I know it's not a good look, right? We've gone over it, right? Do you understand now? Just tell the class that you understand. I mean, and tell them what you understand about it. I'm not going to help you. This is all you. Yeah. Say, there is a redemption arc, but I want you right now to say why that's not the case. Do you know? Racism is systemic oppression. Whites do not have that oppression. There you go. See? Look. He's taught. I don't know what you want me to say. He said the right thing. And all he has to do is say and do the right thing. Like, and then, like, I mean, when, I don't know. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I'm sure he's totally changed and learned. I mean, there's still reactionary shit in there, of course. But he's never going to learn if people don't fucking tell him. Week old redemption arc. This little prick didn't listen to me, you. I know. Really. People can learn. Listen, Caboose is in here, and if you don't want to interact with him, please block him, okay? See, I don't think he was a fash. I think he was just like a dumb libertarian. Ignorant libertarian. Yeah, I know, Dorian Sapiens. You would think that. You would think that, like, he's, like, the only one, but he's not the only one. Like hundreds of thousands of people believe that. They believe that. I wasn't a libertarian. I just wanted the system to change. I'm just concerned Sal Caboose can get fucked. I'm worried you'll get burned. I'm just trying to be honest with everyone. I am not trying to do anything besides teach someone who wants to learn. He has publicly denounced, whichever one it is, the Boogaloo. Yeah, so I don't know. Again, bullshit. You hung out with them for like a year and heard all the fucked up shit they say and count me in fucking bullshit. From what I could gather when I met all of them, he was the person in there always trying to make them act better. I don't know. And yeah, he didn't leave, but he left just now. I don't know. What do you... I don't know. Boogaloo is race war shit. I know. I know it is. But they are claiming it's not. And he says he's not a Boogaloo anymore. But everything that I have done has been out in the plain view, and I'm talking about it now. So... just trying to be honest. He's wearing full boot gear in his pic. I ain't gonna stop you. You're a grown-ass woman, but I don't trust his ass. And you know what? I don't trust him either. I'm not inviting him anywhere or you know, doing anything besides literally trying to teach him online. Okay, so I'm going to continue. The Boogs uphold systemic racism. Yeah. You could just be like, oh, my bad, and move on, which is actually funny because, yeah, you know, it's funny. I feel like it's always at risk to help or educate anyone. I mean, i.e. been burned on fake donations more than once. Yeah, for real. You're right, Bonwall. Hello, Commie Bears. Hey, Abby. Hey, Abby, yeah, if you want to block Caboose, he is in here, so you can just block him. Don't, like, ban him or anything. Just block him for yourself. Yeah, we know how you guys have been trying to infiltrate. Okay, so they're not necessarily trying to infiltrate as they are, like, just trying to use it as, like, a...
God, those communists are amazing.
But I do think some of them think they are good. Some of them think they are good. Hey, class time. Yeah, you're right, Dorian Sapiens. But I do feel like some of them think they are noble. I mean, they all think they are. They all literally think they're going to, like, do the revolution solo and then, like, go and live in a log cabin in the woods and, like, smelt their own ore and, like, weave their own clothes. Like, that's literally what they think they're gonna do. So, hi, class time. Thank you again. We're talking about Boogaloo Twitter drama. We're collectivists, though. That's our shit. Individualism doesn't really vibe. Yeah. Not 3 fucking days. So then they just go and like they're trying to explain like the difference between you know, prejudice and racism, and how like it has to be systemic oppression involved. So it started from that, and it didn't really get better for a while. What this person, it obviously did. And you know, the reason why another reason why I did this, and it's probably really fucking stupid because like, honestly, who am I? But like, I have been, you know, like learning a lot about the Young Patriot Act, and I kind of wanted to see for myself, like, what their group was about. And that's why, like, I got led into a group of 120 Boogaloo, right? And I was in there for a few days, just talking to them, answering their questions, and they all kind of behaved, except for the ones who got kicked out for doing helicopter memes. So yeah, I'm saying do not trust the Boogaloo. I'm not telling you the Boogaloo are good. I'm telling you the Boogaloo are bad. The Boogaloo are not good. I went in there and I found out that they are not good. Okay? Like, I'm not trying to do any like fucking thing about the Boogaloo. Like, what I found out is they are racist, and when you call them out on their racism, they gaslight you. Like, one of the things that they said was they did like a Michelle Obama like a penis joke, and I was like, hey, that's like not acceptable at all, like that is racist. And then they're like, they gaslit me saying, oh, that's not racist at all. And they all just like doubled down. And so yeah, like, you don't fight for race, like, you know, against racism while you are racist. Like, that's just not what you do. And they also, like, a few of them did threaten to kill me. So, only like 10 though. So, yeah. So don't trust the Boogaloo. That's what I'm saying. But after, like, I guess, I don't know what it took, but I guess it is what it took. I don't know what it was. But he fucking said he was done doing it, so I don't know. I'm not saying but not all Boogaloo are bad. I'm saying he said he wasn't a Boogaloo anymore. It's all bad. So I'm just telling you, like, this is the story. The only way you can tell if he's lying is to catch him lying. Like, I don't know. I don't think that he is saying that he is a communist. He does have that thing in his bio, but that's merely to, like, kind of a fuck you to the other people, you know? Kind of like how I have Lady Sal, Tank of the Lake, and I call myself a tanky just to piss people off, like, right off the bat. I don't know. Some important things on the timeline for the change though. It'll take much longer. Oh yeah, you're completely right. Yeah. You're completely right. But he's never gonna learn it if he hangs out with those freaking people. I support whatever you're trying to do, comrade. I do understand it, but I stopped trying to I don't understand it. I guess I was trying to, like, I don't know. I don't even want to say it because it honestly sounds stupid, so. I've been thinking too much about Fred Hampton, alright? Just leave me alone. They wear better commie masks. They don't wear better commie masks, though. They don't. They're so stupid. You ask them a simple question, they can't answer it. They have no idea these terminology, and they refuse to learn. So I think that's false. They can't even say what communism is in one tweet. You should start at not with communists. Yes. They have no idea, though. Oh. Okay, so for the past week, they've been like continuing to like just. Oh, look, this is the one. Thanks for sharing your opinions, but you're a woman. I'm like, cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not saying the Boogaloo are good. I'm saying the Boogaloo are bad. The Boogaloo are bad. That's funny. He just doesn't understand that he's allowed to have a yard under communism. Like, what kind of mask is that? And then look, so they all of them like eventually like send like either a Nazi clown or a death threat. But some of them aren't bad, but some of them are very, very bad. But don't trust them at all. You should just not even talk to them. I don't know why I did. I mean, I do know why I did. But yeah, you shouldn't. I don't suggest it at all. Look, and then they start like tagging me. They call me a bootlicker. Imagine having the audacity of calling me a bootlicker. Hello. What? Oh, hey, Bread Crochet. I like the new name. Thanks for the raid. What's up? I do love trolling. I remember when they came to Louisville, they were going to use raid bug spray instead of pepper spray on the, oh my god. Wait, how do you know that? I may be going to Denver in August for a Native organization. That would be so sweet. Sean. That would be just adorable. Not so fast. Show us the Sailor Moon tweet. Okay. Oh, look. When you are militantly committed to not reading a book. When theory outruns common sense. Like, bro. Oh, wait, where is that one? Oh, I almost showed a Jar Jar penis on accident. Thank God I didn't. Oh my God, look at this. Look how hilarious. Hold on. So I'm posting my like adorable little thing right here. And then he goes... They were loudly yelling it through the loudspeaker. Oh. Like, not like the cops were gonna stop them. That's an adorable little bomb, George Jackson. Yeah, like, he got me. Oh, I'm hurt. Okay. Oh, and all of them use the political quadrants as if they are literally exactly perfect. And so, like that's their ideology. Like, that's how they learn what they are. They take one of those tests, and they're like, this is it, fam. This is it. Oh, look at this. That's a cute one. I stole that one from Sailor Moon. Comrade Sailor Moon. Yeah, he... What is that? Okay, so then Ford Fisher freaking... Here's what I wanted to get to. Ford freaking Fisher. He did this tweet about Caboose. Been thinking for a few months, wearing Hawaiian isn't conducive to revolutionary thinking for me anymore. If you're there for me, I'll be there for you. I'm tired of this dead end. I want to partner with the community. A wardrobe choice shouldn't stand in my way. So he starts asking him questions. For sake of clarity, would I be correct in inferring that you're a communist of the anarchist variety? I'm guessing your shift into communism didn't mean you started to believe in states, but I don't want to assume. So, like, asking him this question is so silly because he, like, doesn't fucking know anything. Books are not comrades. You're right. You're right. He is sus. Yeah, you should be suspicious of him. If you want to block him, you should block him. I'm telling you to block him if you have a problem with him. I've seen your coalition use anti-tanky as well as anti-fascist imagery. At this point, as far as political coalitions are concerned, do you see common ground with libertarian right? Oh wait, so he says, not completely. I've been in ANCOM for a while. That's pretty common in the movement. I believe in individual liberties. Okay, so they all have this like... They all think everything is going to be like part of the community, but like they don't, the sheer lack of understanding about communism is just like irksome, to be honest. But it's getting, yeah. How do you teach this shit though? Like, they're never gonna learn if you fucking don't scream it at their face. Right? I don't know. I don't know. Read books, yeah, but okay. They've been reading Ayn Rand. What? They don't pick the good books. They listen to Tim Pool, like, on purpose. Like, they're not like, I don't know. You don't teach anyone, Sal. You tell anyone that doesn't already agree with you 100% to fuck off. Thanks, Bonwell. Books, not boogs. You're right. They quote Ayn Rand, not read it. Nice. Fun fact, they can't read. Hey, let's not make fun of that, though. That's a classist. I don't like that. Or ableist. I don't know what it is, but it's not nice. I don't like it. Okay. So, I've learned that labels are useless in meeting people and building bridges. These loaded terms mean something different to everyone who uses them. It's important to meet people instead of having preconceptions of their character. Chill out objectifying people. Let's discuss the word tanky in a common language. Tanky, any communist I don't like. It apparently comes with a freak helicopter meme. Oh my god. It does. Oh my god. You know exactly what the definition of tanky is. Authoritarian communism. Do you support it? And so now all of his friends, his Boogaloo crew, not all of them, but a lot of them, publicly on this thread right here, like threatened to kill like multiple communists. Myself. Yeah. Many times. Yes, and I am the authoritarian. It's so cute. You're right, Pork. And I'm not gonna do that. People should seek information outside their circle, but also we should shun anyone that seeks any information outside their circle. Right. I do have to throw hand, or do I have to throw hands out? No, I love you. Please don't be mad at me. Like, I don't know. Oh, for me. Like, please don't fight me. Yeah, so, so Kremlin got labeled a plant too because he in the beginning met Boog in person and they weren't terrible. So he like said that the Boog he met weren't terrible, and then everyone called him like a Boog plant. So but he's actually been like helping me for the past few days. So like I don't think he is, maybe? I don't know. Just look up Hakeem reading list. Oh yeah, that's good. Hakeem reading list is good. Settle the fuck down. Iggy Caboose in here. Yeah, you can block him if you are uncomfortable. So you don't have to interact with him. I don't trust a Boog as far as I can throw him. He says, don't trust me then. Open a dialogue. No one to trust white people with guns that don't do a lick of mutual aid. Actually, I do think he does mutual aid. Oh my god, this person hates me so much. This person has been like yelling at me for days. Because I'm an authoritarian. Have you ever met an actual fascist or white supremacist or just some trolls online? Me? I've met extreme racists. I don't know if I've met a fascist, probably, but they don't say they are. My mom's kind of fashy, to be honest. Literally all you have to do is Google communist theory or literature, but no, let's hold his hand. We're not holding his hand. No, but for real, probably my mom. Okay. So all over this freaking thread, like on Ford Fisher, the journalist. He's a journalist, right? And a news reporter. They fucking threaten to kill everybody. Hello? What? Don't you think that that's a little funny, terrible, stupid, ignorant. I don't know the word. There's many words for that. Threatening violence is how journalism works, right? No, I mean, the journalist didn't threaten any violence. The Boogaloo threatened the violence. Anyways, it's a whole mess. There's more, but I can't figure out where it was. But Sean's partner got into, not like your partner, but like your show person, you know, was freaking, hold on. Okay, so here it's on the same fucking thing. Anarcho-communism, whoever fed you this authoritarian... Oh my god, I'm not gonna read that. Oh. Sal Kami literally identifies as a tanky. Have fun. So then I posted pictures of... I'm not gonna read this out loud, but you can read it. That's what they said to me. Sean. Are you guys reading this? They all like pretend like they have helicopters too. Look at this pretentious, like, ugh. Oh. So. Okay. This is the funny part. Bro, you're claiming to be an MSM. The entire philosophy you give it up your liberties to the state or else line up against the wall. Yeah, we hate all authoritarians, tankies included. You have no right to claim power over me or claim rights on my labor. I was like, Dustin, you have zero clue what communism is. You are a reactionary contrarian with a murder porn fetish. You're never gonna weave clothes in the forest. Yeah, I love that. That's my like favorite line. That's my favorite fucking line because I feel like they all think that they're gonna do that. What's the fundamental understanding communists have? Because I know a lot of communists with a lot of varying opinions and common misunderstandings of the basics and what they claim to follow. They're not a monolith, and I just don't think any group is especially some trolls online. Suspiciousness is warranted for everyone. I just feel like too many conflate getting into some dumb anti-auth group online, being some militant on a fucking commune, running drills and doing hate crimes. But anyways, I don't want to argue. Well, I'm not teaching anyone right now. I'm just going over bullshit. But yeah, I'm going to, yeah, the American flag emoji alone. Yeah. This is Twitter, huh? Yeah, Twitter's terrible. Blah. Also, welcome in. I just realized communism was censored, and I figured out how to turn the censor thing off. Nice. Yeah, it is. Communism is a bad word. It's a bad word. Literally every American is propagandized to be anti-black, anti-native, anti-communist. You're right.
just seems really holier than thou. Like you think you're an exception, but anyone else is irredeemable. You're right. He needs to be held to, people do need to be held to a higher standard. And I'm not suggesting anyone, like, you know, invite him over or, you know, do anything like that. Please block him if he makes you uncomfortable. Communists never called me a fuck ton of slurs depending on what vendor they wanted me to be. Communists never told me to off myself. Yeah, the Boogaloo told me to off myself several times. I don't trust Boogaloo. Communists and anarchists on Twitter have told me to, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, a communist has, yeah, and he was the rapist that I outed a few months ago. The Joker guy. He told me to kill myself. Okay. There are different forms of communism, so don't act like it can be explained in one tweet. And I was like, oh, about to get you good. And then so you guys know that I explained communism in one tweet. Because that's how I roll. That was a shitty dab. Don't ever look at that again, okay? Yeah, so then we go, like, you know, so, but this is, like, all on the journalist's page. You guys, how messy is that? That's so messy. And so here, Kremlin says, Lady, I'm having a hard time reconciling my past support and defense of Boogaloo. I'm friends with Magnus, who I will tell you, I don't trust Magnus at all. Fuck Magnus. I've never heard him be so bigoted and hostile towards communists. This entire thread makes me feel like I have to apologize to a bunch of leftists who were right. And I'm like, yeah, the leftists were right. Yeah, this is all under that one fucking tweet. How messy. And then fucking... So the journalist just... I wonder what he's gonna do with all that. He's just probably like eating popcorn. Like watching. How many days has this been? So many days. What day is it? It's been at least 4 or 5 days. Magnus hasn't really, yeah, I know he hasn't acknowledged any of it. I know, because he's a fucking snake. Yeah, right? Sarah, you probably turned off the notifications. I feel like I pop up on your feed entirely too much. I am so sorry. I am so sorry, Sean. You should mute me. Just go ahead and mute me. Just mute me. I caught the beginning and the end, but I missed some of the middle. I think I'm mostly caught up though. Ah! Oh my god. So basically, the problem is that they don't know. They use all the wrong definitions. And like that's why like people fight with them so often because they really just use the wrong one. Oh, look at their little stupid... Look, it says commies right here. Thou shall yeet commies. Excuse me. Not okay. Oh my god. And then we have Paul Revere right here. Paul Revere, this account. Paul Revere, the Boog, is apparently like an indigenous person who like just puts Paul Revere there to like bait people into like, I don't know. It's some weird ass thing. He's doing a thing. Yeah. It's German for the blessings of what? Oh, it's because I go look for shit to get into. Okay, I know what I'm about. We're gonna get myself on that coveted tanky list. All right, as long as you like to play, I'm glad then that I can provide that for you, because I think it's kind of funny sometimes. I don't know. Sometimes I hate it though. Yo, I fucking silenced that little prick. You're white looking. Nah. Right. My name is from Red versus Blue, by the way. I heard people think that's cringy. Yeah, you're cringe. You're totally cringe. Your whole thing is cringe. You can try to be less cringe. It's gonna take time. Sorry. These guys are so like, we can totally tell. He's like, please do tell. Like, no, that's not the thing, buddy. Oh, look, and here's another one. So he's using gay as a pejorative, spelling it wrong, thinking that, oh, it's not bigoted anymore, right? That's bigoted. That's not okay. That's not what we do. And then here's another boogaloo. Human nature isn't collaborative. If it was, we wouldn't be where we are. Excuse me, sir, what? What? So yeah, that's just, I mean, and they believe this stuff. And the only way that they're not going to like believe this stuff is, I don't know, like we have to keep screaming it at them. I don't know what else to do. Oh my god, look at this freaking, oh, freaking, hold on.
At the global map, and you can probably find,
this is what
at
they
some
all are
point
like, this lady right here.
Throughout the 20th century, the U.S. intervening to undermine, some type of social democratic effort and backing the most vicious right-wing elements. And the irony of them calling this anti-Semitism when the U.S. very consciously and explicitly, out of World War II, allied itself with former Nazis, helped Nazis escape justice, was complicit in what was called the rat line, with getting Nazis out of Germany and into these death squads that were run by the United States and deployed in an anti-communist fashion against the Soviet Union and against leftist elements in South America.
But who ended the Holocaust? I mean, what country?
The Soviet Union, actually.
Okay, but
I mean, the Soviet Union did that.
No,
we walked in after the Russians had suffered what 20+ million casualties and marched into Germany.
Sure, but without the United States' intervention, a heck of a lot more people would have died in that atrocity.
Yes, and I'm glad the Soviet Union and the United States allied to beat Nazi Germany, but the Nazi Germany, the Nazis themselves then allied with the United States to go after the Soviet Union and to go after communist and social democratic elements in South America. That's an actual part of the history.
But again, there's lives being saved in that process, a lot of lives being saved in that process, and a lot of Americans putting their lives on the line and dying to save those lives.
Sure, but many fewer than Soviet lives died to take off the Nazis.
Привет. Привет. Привет.
So she's like, malfunction. Oh, here, look at this one. That is Paul Revere, the sweetie. What a sweetie. That's sweet. It's precious. You're gonna bomb the dog? Don't bomb the dog. Ma American mythology. For real, right? Yeah. Don't trust the boog. Just don't talk to them. I suggest you don't. God, I want to click on this. I'm so happy for Left Flank veterans. Great job, guys. You're gonna be so great
Where
now.
are the Marxists
Oh.
here?
Hot peen breath. Hell yeah. What's up? You want to go for a ban? What's up? You cool? You want a ban? Let me know. Not even gonna act like we don't have fuck nuts like that Paul Revere dude in Indigenous. Finally sold out. Yeah, right. I mean, they made it. Congratulations. Okay, enough of this bullshit. Enough of this bullshit. Oh, he called me ugly? Watch this. Just wait. Just watch this. Look at this ratio. This is so cute. Right? You mean like them edited pics of you hiding that double chin, double pupils because you couldn't edit your nose right? All them filters make you look like a fucking cartoon character. And then Saul's like, ratio with a picture of my face. And then so I did. I crushed him. Thank you. And that is probably, yeah, the best one. All right. All right, enough bullshit. We're gonna fucking learn something, okay? Spend enough time on this trash. Slideshow. Had to ask what a ratio meant. I know. What a fucking Twitter noob. Pfft. Embarrassing. Ratio! Ooh, damn, this is bright. Hold on. Why am I so shiny? Here we go. Okay, so this one is all about the USSR or Russia. The USSR and Russia. What do they mean? Double pupils across the sky. Sounds like a charmer. I know, right? Solves a lot of things, but ugly ain't one. Aww. Aww. Hey, wait, what are the other things? Hot peen breath. It's just so great. Started to look like triple pupils. Hell yeah, triple pupils. What pupils? No pupils. That's right. I don't know. The pupils in my adorable Twitter photo. That photo is bomb. So I don't even like, you can't even gaslight me into like thinking I feel bad in that because I know I'm cute. Fuck you. Not all the time, but definitely in that picture. Definitely in that picture. Oh, tell me, Ziggy, how was your date? Cringe. Yeah, your end goal is apparent. It's not fucking communism. On a bus, charger's not working. Ha. Yeah. Thanks. Do the shirt thing. What shirt thing? Are you ready? What? He wants me to tear open my shirt and show a hammer and sickle. Nice. Okay, I'm gonna start reading now. Pieces of a living city cannot be auctioned off without taking into consideration that they are indigenous traditions, even if they seem odd to foreigners. These are our traditions and our city. For a long time we lived under the dictatorship, but now we have found out that life under the dictatorship of business people is no better. They couldn't care less about what country they are in. When Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev, I just totally like screwed up his name. Is it Michael? Michael Gorbachev. When she says something about liberals, say fuck liberals and tear the outer shirt off. Oh no. That's funny. Dang it. Mikhail Gorbs. Mikey Gorbs. That's his name. What up, Mikey Gorbs? It's not Michael. It's Michael. Mikhail. I like Mikey Gorbs. Mikhail? Mikhail Gorbachev. Mikhail Gorbachev. Is that right? Oh my god. Mikhail. Pizza boy. Just call him Gorbo.
Okay, I'll call him Gorbo. Gorbo. Lord Gorbo. No. You know what? Just say Michael. Damn it. The guy that ruined communism with pizza. That's what I know. That's my history lesson. Pizza Hut killed communism. Is he attacking you? Okay. When Gorby flew to London to attend his first G7 summit in July 1991, he had every reason to expect a hero's welcome. For the previous 3 years, he had seemed not so much to stride across the international stage as to float, charming the media, signing disarmament treaties, and picking up peace prizes, including the Nobel in 1990. He had even managed to do the previously unthinkable, win over the American public. The Russian leader so thoroughly challenged evil empire caricatures that the U.S. press had taken to calling him by a cuddly nickname, Gorby, in 1987. Time magazine took the risky decision of making the Soviet president their Man of the Year. The editors explained that unlike his predecessors, gargoyles in fur hats, Gorbachev was Russia's own Ronald Reagan, a Kremlin version of the great communicator. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee declared that, thanks to his work, it is our hope that we are now celebrating the end of the Cold War. I thought Tetris killed communism. True. Revisionist! Man, did no one make that Richard Wolf meme into the gift? Huh? I gotta head to bed. Hey, thanks for being here, Sean. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Respect people's boundaries. Fred, he said okay. Jeez. After he ruined USSR, didn't he end up in a crappy apartment with leaking pipes? Boy, I hope so. Hey, oh, did you follow me earlier, B. Jade Rabbit? I'm sorry. Hi. I think you did follow me, or did you sub? Either way, hi, welcome in. Okay. Or were you just here and I noticed your name? I don't know. Oh, you have? Oh. Well, maybe I just noticed your name. I don't know. Sorry. Okay. By the beginning of the 90s, with his twin policies of glasnost, openness, and perestroika, restructuring, so openness and restructuring, Gorbachev had led the Soviet Union through a remarkable process of democratization. The press had been freed. Russia's parliament, local councils, presidents, and vice presidents had been elected, and the constitutional court was independent. As for the economy, Gorbachev was moving towards a mixture of free market and strong safety net, with key industries under public control. The process he predicted would take 10 to 15 years to be completed. His end goal was to build social democracy on the Scandinavian model, a socialist beacon for all mankind. At first, it seemed that the West also wanted Gorbachev to succeed in loosening up the Soviet economy and transforming it into something close to Sweden's. The Nobel Committee explicitly described the prize as a way of offering support to the transition, a helping hand in an hour of need, and on a
visit to Prague, Gorbachev made it clear that he couldn't do it alone. Like mountain climbers on one rope, a world's nation can either climb together to the summit or fall into the abyss. First of all, that doesn't make any fucking sense. That doesn't make any fucking sense. How many people go rope climbing together? Is it normally like a lot? Like mountain climbers? Does normally like a lot of them go on the same rope? That doesn't make sense. Isn't it like, is it a team thing? I don't understand. Maybe he knows more about rock climbing than me. I definitely don't know shit about rock climbing, but that metaphor just doesn't sound right. I'm sorry. Fucking sock domes. I know. Fucking sock domes. Ziggy. I've been arguing for days. Can we just read about the destruction of the USSR so I can have a better time? I'm just kidding. I want to cry. Okay. Oh, boy. Rock climbing is bae. You need friends to do it, though. Oh, you do? Okay, so he's right. Does the metaphor make sense or is it silly? I don't know. I don't like it. One more time. Like mountain climbers on a rope, the world's nation can either climb together to the summit or fall together to the abyss. I hate it. Damn it, I'm already fucked up on my slides. So what happened at the G7 meeting in 1991 was totally unexpected. The nearly unanimous message that Gorbachev received from the fellow heads of state was that if he did not embrace radical economic shock therapy immediately, they would sever the rope and let him fall. Their suggestion as to the tempo and methods of the transition were astonishing, Gorbachev wrote. Poland had just completed its first round of shock therapy under the IMF's and Jeffrey Sachs' tutelage, and the consensus among British Prime Minister John Major, U.S. President George H.W. Bush, Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, and Japanese Prime Minister Toshiki Kaifu was that the Soviet Union had to follow Poland's lead on an even faster timetable. After the meeting, Gorbachev got the same marching orders from the IMF, the World Bank, and every other major lending institution. Later that year, when Russia asked for debt forgiveness to weather a catastrophic economic crisis, the stern answer was that the debts had to be honored. Since the time when Sachs had marshaled aid and debt relief for Poland, the political mood had changed. It was meaner. What happened next? The dissolution of the Soviet Union, Gorbachev's eclipse by Yeltsin, and the tumultuous course of economic shock therapy in Russia is a well-documented chapter of contemporary history. It is, however, a story too often told in the bland language of reform, a narrative so generic that it has hidden one of the greatest crimes committed in the against a democracy in modern history. Russia, like China, was forced to choose between Chicago school economic programs and an authentic democratic revolution. Faced with that choice, China's leaders had attacked their own people in order to prevent democracy from disturbing their free market plans. Russia was different. The democratic revolution was already well underway. In order to push through the Chicago School economic program, a peaceful and hopeful process that Gorbachev began had to be violently interrupted and then radically reversed. Gorbachev knew that the only way to impose this kind of shock therapy in being advocated by the G7 and the IMF was with force, as did many in the West pushing for these policies. The Economist magazine, in an influential 1990 piece, urged Gorbachev to adopt strong male rule and smash resistance that has blocked serious economic reforms. Only 2 weeks after the Nobel Committee had declared the end of the Cold War, The Economist was urging Gorbachev to model himself after one of the Cold War's most notorious killers. Under the heading, Mikhail Sergeyevich Pinochet, ? Mikhail Sergeyevich Pinochet? The article concluded that even though following its advice could cause plausible bloodletting, it just might be the Soviet Union's turn for what could be called the Pinochet's approach to liberal economics. The Washington Post was willing to go further. In August 1991, the paper ran a commentary under the headline, Pinochet's Chile, a pragmatic model for Soviet economy. The article supported the idea of a coup for getting rid of the slow-going Gorbachev, but the author, Mikhail Shrog, worried that the Soviet presidential opponent had neither the savvy nor the support to seize the Pinochet option. They should model themselves, Shrog wrote, after a despot who, is that right? Is it despot? Despot? Despot. I've asked you guys this before. I think it's despot. Who really knew how to run a coup. Retired Chilean General Augusto Pinochet. Despot? Either? Okay. Gorbachev soon found himself facing an adversary who was more than willing to play the role of Russian Pinochet. Boris Yeltsin, though holding the post of... Oh, hold on. Is that Yeltsin? Yeah, that's Yeltsin. Though holding the post of Russian president, had a much lower profile than Gorbachev, who headed all the Soviet Union. That was to change dramatically on August 19, 1991, 1 month after G7 summit. A group from the communist old guard drove tanks up to the White House, as the Russian parliament building is called. In a bid to halt the democratization process, they threatened to attack the country's first elected parliament. Amid the crowd of Russians determined to defend their new democracy, Yeltsin stood on one of the tanks and denounced the aggression as a cynical right-wing coup attempt. The tanks retreated and Yeltsin emerged as a courageous defender of democracy. The demonstrators who stood in the streets that day described it as the first time I felt like it could really affect the situation in my country. Our souls soared. It was such a feeling of unity. We felt invincible. And so did Yeltsin. As a leader, he had always been kind of anti-Gorbachev. Where Gorbachev had projected propriety and sobriety, one of his most controversial measures was an aggressive anti-vodka drinking campaign. Yeltsin was a notorious glutton and a heavy drinker. Prior to the coup, many Russians harbored reservations about Yeltsin, but he had helped to save a democracy from a communist coup that made him, at least for the time being, the people's hero. Mean communists. Yeltsin immediately parlayed his triumphant showdown into increased political power. As long as the Soviet Union remained intact, he would always have less control than Gorbachev. But in December 1991, 4 months after the aborted coup, Yeltsin pulled off a political masterstroke. He formed an alliance with the 2 other Soviet republics, a move that had the effect of abruptly dissolving the Soviet Union, thereby forcing Gorbachev's resignation. The abolition of the Soviet Union, the only country most Russians had ever known, was a powerful shock to the Russian psyche. And as the political scientist Stephen Cohen put it, it was the first of 3 traumatic shocks the Russians would endure over the next 3 years. Hey, Pain Alien. Tanks. Tanks represent. Never been done. Not me. Not me beefing on Twitter. No. Where am I at? Thanks for the memories. She's an angel. That's right. I am an angel. Thank you for noticing. Jeffrey Sachs was in the room at the Kremlin on the day that Yeltsin announced the Soviet Union was no more. Sachs recalled the Russian president saying, "Gentlemen, I just want to announce that the Soviet Union has ended." And I said, "Gee, you know, this is a once in a century. This is the most incredible thing you can imagine. This is true liberation." I don't know why I'm giving him like a New York accent. Let's help these people. Yeltsin had invited Sachs to come to Russia to serve as an advisor, and Sachs, who was more than game. Oh wait, hold on, I wonder if this is gonna work. Damn it, it doesn't work again. I have this voice mod thing. It just doesn't work. Hello? Oh shit, I think it's working. Okay. Is it working now?
Yes, it is working. Hi, it's working. I like it. Can you do Russian? No. No. I can't do like any accents. I suck. Like, can't do it.
Please? No. It's not going to be good. It's going to be bad. It's not going to be good. It's going to be the biggest womp womp. Womp womp. In case I want to see that. I can't do it. You guys are going to clip it. I can't do it. I've already damaged my reputation enough today. I can't do it. I don't have it in me. Shit. Okay. Okay, I'll practice. It would be a PR nightmare. I know. I just can't handle it today. I can't handle it. We'll try again. We'll let everything calm down, and then I'll get in trouble for like xenophobia or something. I don't know. It'll be fine. I'll learn the accent though for you guys. What is that? New York accent? No. What happened? Jeffrey Sachs was in the room at the Kremlin on the day that Yeltsin announced the Soviet Union was no more. Sachs recalled the Russian president saying, "Gentlemen, I just want to announce that the Soviet Union has ended." And I said, "Gee, you know, this is a once in a century. This is the most incredible thing you can imagine. This is true liberation." I don't know why I'm giving him like a New York accent. Let's help these people. Oh, I'm so sorry, everyone. Now you had to see that twice. So that's cool. Thanks, Paint. Gee, you know, I don't know. True liberation. I'm walking over here. That's the only accent I can do is New York. That's it. Coffee. I can do that. Okay. Yeltsin had invited Sachs, Jeffrey Sachs, to come to Russia to serve as an advisor, and Sachs was more than game. If Poland can do it, so can Russia, he declared. But Yeltsin didn't want advice. He wanted the kind of gold-plated fundraising that Sachs had pulled off for Poland. The only hope, Yeltsin said, was the promise of the Group of Seven quickly to grant us large sums of financial aid. Sachs told Yeltsin that he was confident that if Moscow was willing to go with the Big Bang approach, establishing a capitalist economy, he could raise something in the area of 15 billion. They would need to be ambitious. And they would need to move fast. What Yeltsin did not know was that Sachs' luck was just about to run out. Russia's conversion to capitalism had much in common with the corrupt approach that had sparked the Tiananmen Square protests in China years earlier. Moscow's mayor, Gavril Popov, that's a cute name. Is that Gavril? Just pretend with me that that's the right name. Has claimed that there were really only two options for how to break up the centrally controlled economy. Property can be divided among all members of society, or the best pieces can be given to the leaders. In a word, there's the democratic approach, and there's the nomenclatura, apparatchik approach. Yeltsin took the latter approach, and he was in a hurry. In late 1991, he went to the parliament and made an unorthodox proposal. Oh shit. Hello, Ben. What's your news? Gee, you know. Oh, I think I can do Canadian. I try it. Oh, fuck, I lost it. Damn it. I had it, though. I had it for a second, you have to admit. I did have it for a second. Please don't. Hey, oh, that was Minnesota? Dang it. Come on, guys. Killing me. I'm gonna put my privilege where my mouth is and go start doing mutual aid network for small students. What does that mean? What are you gonna do? It sounded like English wasn't your first language, bro. I also think I can talk like this. This is my English accent. It might not be that good, but this is the only other accent that I can actually talk in. So I'm going to stop doing it now, though. I don't like it. I'm sorry. In Soviet Russia, accent do you? Okay. I'm never gonna do it again, though. No. Really? It was pretty good? Thanks. I'm like totally fucking blushing right now. Sips tea loudly. Okay. Not exactly sure yet. More research is required, but I'm thinking of raising money for encumbered streamers who can do other work besides stream but struggle. Yeah. True. I will never recover from this stream. It's too bad. Like I'm ruined. I am ruined. Rip Sal. All right. Here we go. Fuck, I lost where I was at. Okay. The unorthodox proposal. If they gave him 1 year of special powers under which he could use he could issue laws, but by decree rather than by bringing them to Parliament, he would solve the economic crisis and give them back their thriving, healthy system. What Yeltsin was asking for was the kind of executive power enjoyed by dictators, not Democrats. But the Parliament was still grateful for the president for his role during the attempted coup. And the country was desperate for foreign aid, so the answer was yes. Yeltsin could have 1 year of absolute power to remake the economy of Russia. Great. Great. You're good, Ben. Bye. That sounds really cool. Okay. Where am I at? He immediately assembles a team of economists many of whom, in the final years of communism, had formed the kind of free market book club, reading the basic text of the Chicago school thinkers and discussing the theories, how the theories could be applied in Russia. Oh my god, I'm gonna fucking vomit. Though they had never studied in the U.S., they were such devoted fans of Milton Friedman that the Russian press took to calling the Yeltsin's team the Chicago Boys. I'm gonna puke. Oh, I'm not there yet. A knockoff of the original title and fitting in the context of Russia's thriving black market economy. And in the West, they were dubbed the Young Reformers. The group's figurehead was Yegor Gaider. That is not how you say that, but that's how we're gonna pronounce that. Whom Yeltsin named as one of his 2 duty prime ministers. Yeah, it's bad. Yeltsin had posters of Friedman above his bed. James, he would practice kissing. Oh! Oh! It's too much. It's too much. Oh my god, hot. No! George Jackson, no. No. The group's Their identification of themselves with God, which flowed naturally from their beliefs in all-around superiority, was unfortunately typical of our reformers. That just sounds so gross. Surveying the group that has suddenly ascended to power in Moscow, the Russian newspaper Nezavismaya Gazeta, that is how you say that, observed a rather astonishing development. That for the first time, Russia will get in its government a team of liberals who consider themselves followers of Friedrich von Hayek and the Chicago School of Milton Friedman. Their policies were quite clear. Strict financial stabilization according to shock therapy recipes. At the same time as Yeltsin made these appointments, the newspaper noted he had also put the notorious strongman Yuri Skokov in charge of the Defense and Repressive Department. Defense and Repressive Departments. Yikes. The Army of Ministry and Internal Affairs. It's like if you called like the CIA like the Listening and Looting Department or something. Something just like so spot on. Department of Repression. I know. Pretty spot on. Probably the strong Skokov can ensure the strict stabilization in politics, while the strong economists guarantee it in the economy. The article ended with the prediction: it will come as no surprise that they attempt to construct something like the homegrown Pinochet system, in which the role of the Chicago Boys will be played by the Gadar team. To provide ideological and technical backup for Yeltsin's Chicago Boys, the United States government funded its own transition experts whose job ranged from writing privatization decrees to launching New York-style stock exchange to designing Russian mutual fund markets. In the fall of 1992, the U.S. aid awarded $2.1 million contract to the Harvard Institute for International Development, which sent teams of young lawyers and economists to shadow the Ghadar team. In May 1995, Harvard named Sachs director of the Harvard Institute and International Development, which meant that he played two roles in Russia's reform period. He began as a freelance advisor to Yeltsin and then moved on to overseeing Harvard's Then moved on to overseeing Harvard's large Russia outpost, funded by the U.S. government. Stock exchange with New York characteristics. True. Once again, a group of self-described revolutionaries huddled in secret to write a radical economic program, as Dmitry Vasiliev, one of the key reformers, recalled. At the start, we didn't have a single employee, not even a secretary. We didn't even have any equipment, not even a fax machine. And in those conditions, in just a month and a half, we have to write a comprehensive privatization program. We have to write 20 normative laws. It was a really romantic period. That's not what I would describe as romantic. On October 28, 1991, Yeltsin announced the lifting of price controls, predicting that liberalization of prices will put everything in its right place. The reformers waited only 1 week after Gorbachev resigned to launch their economic shock therapy program, the second of 3 traumatic shocks. The shock therapy program also included free trade policies and the first phase of the rapid-fire privatization of the country's approximately 225,000 state-owned companies. That's a lot. The country was taken by surprise by the Chicago School program, one of Yeltsin's original economic advisors recalled. That surprise was deliberate, part of Ghadar's strategy of unleashing change so suddenly and quickly that resistance would be impossible. So they just wanted to do it so there's no, freaking protests and shit. Ugh, romantic. The posters made it romantic. Nice, Dorian. Okay. The problem his team was up against was the usual one: the threat of democracy obstructing their plans. Russians did not want their economy organized by They still believe firmly in wealth redistribution and the activist role for government. Like the Polish supporters of solidarity, 67% of Russians told pollsters in 1992 they believed workers' cooperatives were the most equitable way to privatize the assets of the communist state, and 79% said that they considered maintaining full employment to be a core function of government. That meant that if Yeltsin's team had submitted their plans to democratic debate rather than launching a stealth attack on already deeply disoriented public, the Chicago School Revolution would not have stood a chance. Vladimir Mao... Oh. Hold on.
An advisor to Boris Yeltsin in this period explained that the most favorable conditions to reform is a weary public exhausted by the previous political struggle. That is why the government was confident on the eve of price liberalization that a drastic social clash was impossible. Social clash, not class. Jesus. That the government would not be overthrown by a popular revolt. The vast majority of Russians, 70%, were opposed to lifting price controls, he explained. But we could see that the people then and now were concentrating on the yields of their private garden plots in the general on their individual economic circumstances. So they were fucking busy. They didn't know. Joseph Stiglitz, who at the time was serving as chief economist at the World Bank, summarized the mentality that guided the shock therapists. His metaphors should now be familiar. Only a blitzkrieg approach during the window of opportunity provided by the fog of transition would get the changes made before the population had a chance to organize and protect its previous vested interest. In other words, the shock doctrine, baby. Stiglitz called Russia's reformers market Bolsheviks for their fondness for cataclysmic revolution. Fucking bourgeois revolution, kiss my ass. However, there were original Bolsheviks fully intended to build their centrally planned state in the ashes of the old. The market Bolsheviks believed in a kind of magic. If the optimal conditions for profit making were created, the country would rebuild itself, no planning required. It was a faith that would re-emerge a decade later in Iraq. Yeltsin made wild promises that for approximately 6 months, things in Russia would be worse, but then recovery would begin, and soon enough, Russia would be an economic titan, one of the top 4 economies in the world. This logic of so-called creative destruction resulted in scarce creation and spiraling destruction. After only 1 year, shock therapy had taken a devastating toll. Millions of middle-class Russians had lost their life savings and money lost its value. The abrupt cuts to subsidies meant millions of workers had not been paid in months. The average Russian consumed 40% less in 1992 than in 1991, and a third of the population fell below the poverty line. The middle class was forced to sell their personal belongings, from card tables on the street, desperate acts that the Chicago School economists praised as entrepreneurial, proof that capitalist renaissance was indeed underway, one family heirloom, a second-hand blazer at a time. And that's how they do it now, too. They like to do shit like, little girl runs lemonade stand to help her mom who lost her job pay for her school or some shit like that. Some fucking shit. The fucking framing is so off. Ugh. The period consisted of candlelit dinners and makeouts under the stars. Market Bolsheviks? You mean Dangus? Probably. Sock Dems are the modern market Bolsheviks. Damn, bruh. When it said the average Russian consumed less, my mind instantly filled with fuck. Or a recent little girl does lemonade stand to pay for her own brain surgery. Oh my god, did you see that? Was that a real one? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh. That's just great. Capitalism, where you can't go to the doctor. Did you want to? Too bad. Oh, shit. I hate it. As in Poland, Russians did eventually regain their bearings and begin to demand an end to the sadistic economic adventure. No More Experiments was a popular piece of graffiti in Moscow at the time. Under pressure from the voters The country's elected parliament did the same body that had supported Yeltsin's rise to power decided it was time to rein in the president and his ersatz. Is it ersatz? Ersatz? The fuck? Hold on. I'm just gonna look this one up. Why don't I know anything today?
Ersatz.
Ersatz?
Ersatz.
That means it's fake. Ersatz is fake? Oh, it's like a shitty... Oh, okay. So it's like a shitty Chicago Boys. Okay, I get it. In December 1992, they voted to unseat Yegor Gadar, and 3 months later, in March 1993, the parliamentarians voted to repeal the special powers they had given to Yeltsin to impose his economic laws by decree. The grace period had expired, and the results were abysmal. From now on, laws had to go through parliament and standard measure in any liberal democracy, and following the procedures set out in Russia's constitution. These deputies were acting within their rights, but Yeltsin had grown accustomed to his augmented powers and had come to think of himself as less a president and more as a monarch. He had taken to calling himself Boris I. He retaliated against the parliament's mutiny by going on television and declaring a state of emergency, which conveniently restored his imperial powers. 3 days later, Russia's independent constitutional court, the creation of which was one of Gorbachev's most significant democratic breakthroughs, ruled 9-3 that Yeltsin's power grab violated. On 8 different counts, the Constitution had sworn to, Jesus, hold on. On 8 different counts, the Constitution he had sworn to uphold. Until this point, it had still been possible to present economic reform and democratic reform as a part of the same project in Russia. But once Yeltsin declared a state of emergency, the two projects were on a collision course, with Yeltsin and his shock therapists in direct opposition to the elected parliament and the Constitution. Nevertheless, the West threw its weight behind Yeltsin. Yay! Who was still cast in the role as a progressive, genuinely committed to freedom and democracy, genuinely committed to reform, in the words of the United States President Bill Clinton. The majority of the Western press also sided with Yeltsin against the entire parliament, whose members were dismissed as communist hardliners trying to roll back democratic reforms. They suffered, according to the New York Times Moscow bureau chief, from a Soviet mentality, suspicious of reform, ignorant of democracy, disdainful of intellectuals or Democrats. Wow. Fucking monstrous. It still applies to the statement. In fact, these are the same politicians, for all their flaws, and with 1,041 deputies where there were plenty, who had stood with Yeltsin and Gorbachev against the coup by the hardliners in 1991, who had voted to dissolve the Soviet Union, and who had, until recently, thrown their support behind Yeltsin. Yet the Washington Post opted to cast Russia's parliamentarians as anti-government, as if they were interlopers and not themselves part of the government. Hardliners. Ayo. In the spring of 1993, the coalition drew... I feel like, did I already talk about this? Maybe this isn't coming up. The collision course drew closer when Parliament brought forward a budget bill that did not follow the IMF's demands for strict austerity. Yeltsin responded by trying to eliminate the parliament. He hastily threw together a referendum supported in Orwellian fashion by the press, which asked voters if they agreed to dissolve parliament and hold snap elections. Not enough voters turned out to give Yeltsin a mandate he needed. He still claimed victory, however, mandating that the exercise prove the country was behind him. Because he had slipped in an entirely non-binding question about whether the voters support his referendum. A slim majority said yeah. Yes. They didn't say yeah. They said yes. They said aye. What is this, Merle? That didn't work. In Russia, the referendum was widely seen as a propaganda exercise, and a failed one at that. The reality was that Yeltsin and Washington were still stuck with a parliament that had a constitutional right to do what it was doing, slowing down the shock therapy transformation, an intense pressure campaign. Lawrence Summers, then U.S. Treasury Undersecretary, warned that the momentum for Russian reform must be reinvigorated and intensified to ensure sustained multilateral support. The IMF got the message, and an unnamed official leaked to the press that the promised $1.5 billion loan was being rescinded because the IMF was unhappy with Russia backtracking on reforms. Piotr, I'm saying that wrong. It's like, oh God, hold on. Let's just look it up. Okay. Let's see.
Pronouncing it. In Russian, it is said as Piotr.
Piotr. That's how you say it. Piotr Avin, that's his name, the former Yeltsin minister, said the maniacal obsession with the IMF, the budgetary and monetary policy, and its absolutely superficial and formal attitude to everything else played not a small role in what happened. Yeltsin's win was 96 was rigged. Yeah, it was definitely rigged. I was 11 and I could have told you so. The maniacal, where is that? Damn it. What happened was that the day after the IMF leak, Yeltsin, confident that he had the West's support, took his first irreversible step towards what was now being openly referred to as the Pinochet option. He issued a decree 1400, announcing that the Constitution was abolished and Parliament was dissolved. 2 days later, a special session of Parliament voted 636-2 to impeach Yeltsin for this outrageous act, the equivalent of the U.S. president unilaterally dissolving Congress. Yeah, obviously, like, who doesn't know that? Vice President Alexander Roscoe announced that Russia had already paid a dear price for the political adventurism of Yeltsin and the reforms. Some kind of armed conflict between Yeltsin and Parliament was now inevitable, despite the fact that Russia's constitutional court once again ruled Yeltsin's behavior unconstitutional. Clinton continued to back him, and Congress voted to give Yeltsin $2.5 billion in aid. Emboldened, Yeltsin sent troops to surround the parliament and got the city to cut off the power, the heat, and the phone lines to the White House Parliament building. Boris Karlogradsky,
director of the Institution of Globalization Studies in Moscow, told me that the supporters of Russian democracy were coming in by the thousands to try to break the blockade. There were 2 weeks of peaceful demonstrations confronting the troops and police forces, which led to a partial unblocking of Parliament building, where the people able to bring food and water with people able to bring food and water inside. Peaceful resistance was growing more popular and gaining broader support each day. With each side becoming more entrenched, the only compromise that could have resolved this standoff would have been for both sides to agree to early elections, putting everybody's job up for a public review. Many were urging this outcome, but as Yeltsin was weighing his options and reportedly leaning toward elections, news came from Poland that voters had rained down their decisive punishment on Solidarity. The party had been the party that had betrayed them with shock therapy. After they witnessed Solidarity get pounded at the polls, stop. It was obvious to Yeltsin and his Western advisors that early elections were far too risky. Ayo, listen. I have fun. Actually, you'll see that I got tired of putting things. Oh. I just started doing stuff like this, so I'm sorry. These slides are just kind of shitty. But that's what's happening. Welcome to the Jizz Factory. AKA the Treasury. This is where we make all the jizz in the United States. Welcome. Okay. In Russia, too much wealth hung in the balance. Huge oil fields, about 30% of the world's natural gas reserves, 20% of its nickel, not to mention weapons factories and the state media apparatus in which the Communist Party had controlled a vast population. It's so fucking stupid. I hate how they write. I hate how she writes about it. Yeltsin abandoned negotiations and moved into war posture. Having just doubled military salaries, he had most of the army on his side, and he has surrounded the parliament with thousands of interior ministry troops, barbed wire, and water cannons, and refused to let anyone pass, according to the Washington Post. Vice President Ritskoy, Yeltsin's main rival in parliament, had by this point armed his guards and welcomed proto-fascist nationalists into his camp. He urged his supporters to not give a moment of peace and Yeltsin's dictatorship. I don't know what he did. Kargalitsky, who participated in the protests, wrote a book about the episode and told me that on October 3rd, crowds of supporters of the parliament marched to the Ostankino TV center and demanded that news be announced. Some people in the crowd were armed, but most were not. There were children in the crowd. It was met by Yeltsin's troop and machine-gunned. About 100 demonstrators and a member of the military were killed. Yeltsin's next move was to dissolve all city and regional councils in the country. Russia's young democracy was being destroyed piece by piece. There is no doubt that some parliamentarians showed antipathy for the peaceful settlement by egging on the crowd. But even as the former U.S. State Department official Leslie Gleb wrote, the parliament was not dominated by a bunch of right-wing crazies. It was Yeltsin's illegal disillusionment of the parliament and his defiance of the country's highest court that precipitated the crisis. Moves that were bound to be met by desperate measures in a country that had little desire to give up the democracy it had just won. A clear signal from Washington or the EU could have forced Yeltsin to engage in serious negotiations with the parliamentarians, but he also received only encouragement. Finally, on the morning of October 4th, 1993, Yeltsin filled his long-prescribed destiny and became Russia's very own Pinochet, unleashing a series of violent events with unmistakable echoes of the coup in Chile exactly 20 years earlier. In what was a third traumatic shock inflicted by Yeltsin on the Russian people, he ordered a reluctant army to storm the Russian White House, setting it on fire and leaving the charred building he had built his reputation defending just 2 years earlier. Communism may have collapsed without firing a single shot, but Chicago-style capitalism, it turned out, required a great deal of gunfire to defend itself. Yeltsin called in 5 dozen soldiers, dozens of tanks, and armored personnel carriers. Oh, 5,000, not 5 dozen. What did I just fucking say? Jesus Christ. I'm getting tired. Yeltsin called in 5,000 soldiers, dozens of tanks, and armored personnel carriers, helicopters, and elite shock troops armed with automatic machine guns, all to defend Russia's new capitalist economy from the grave threat of democracy. This is how the Boston Globe reported on Yeltsin's parliamentary siege. For 10 hours yesterday, about 30 Russian army tanks and armored personnel carriers encircled the parliament building down in Moscow, known as the White House, and pelted it with explosive rounds, while infantry troops sprayed machine gun fire. At 4:15 p.m., about 300 guards, congressional deputies, and staff marched single file out the building with their hands up. 1.5 platoons, dozens of tanks. Everyone gets a tank. Yes, Jizz Factory. This is the Jizz Factory. Okay. By the end of the day, the all-out military assault that had taken the lives of approximately 500 people and wounded almost 1,000, the most violence Moscow had seen since 1917. Peter Redway and Dmitry Glinsky, who wrote a definitive account of the Yeltsin years, the tragedy of Russia's reforms, market Bolshevism against democracy, point out that during the mopping up operation in and around the White House, 1,700 persons had been arrested, 11 weapons seized. Some of the arrests were interned and in a sports stadium. Oh God, that's just like Pinochet. Recalling the procedures used by Pinochet in 1973 coup in Chile. Many were taken to police stations where they were severely beaten. Kargalitsky recalls that while he was being struck on the head, an officer shouted, "You want democracy, you son of a bitch? We'll show you democracy." But Russia wasn't a repeat of Chile. It was Chile in reverse order. Pinochet staged a coup, dissolving the institutions of democracy, and then imposed shock therapy. Yeltsin imposed shock therapy in a democracy, and then could only defend it by dissolving democracy and staging a coup. Both scenarios earned enthusiastic support from the West. Yeah. This is what democracy looked like. Hi, Prezzo. Yeltsin receives widespread backing for assault. Read a headline in the Washington Post the day after the coup. Victory scene for democracy. The Boston Globe went with Russia escapes a return to the dungeons of its past. The U.S. Secretary of State Warren Christopher traveled to Moscow to stand with Yeltsin, and Gagarin declared, "The United States does not easily support the suspension of parliaments, but these are extraordinary times." The United States like, base, do it. Is it? Nice, that's cool. Dungeons? They're called gulags. Everyone gets the gulag at least 6 months. That's fair. That's fair, you know? We all have things we're working on. I'll go. I don't care. I'll go. I'll go to gulag. The events look different in Russia. I didn't even cover that, but like I did cover why I went over the treasury, but I'm sick of looking at the jizz factory, so we're gonna move on. Gulags and gorgons. It's funny how it's always almost always extraordinary times. Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, well that's the thing. That's the shock therapy of it, Frezzo. Something really bad happens and then they're like, I'm gonna use this as a fucking excuse to make your life a shitload worse. Yay! And so they turned what was left of fucking the USSR into capitalist hell. Pinochet style. Hey! Yeltsin, a man who had risen to power by defending Parliament, had now literally set it on fire, leaving it so badly charred that it was nicknamed the Black House. A middle-aged Muscovite told a foreign camera crew in horror, "People supported Yeltsin because he promised us democracy, but he shot up that democracy. Not only did he violate it, but he shot it up." Vitaly Neiman, who had stood guard at the entrance of the White House during the 1991 coup, put the betrayal this way. "What we got was entirely the opposite of what we dreamed of. We went to the barricades for them, laid our lives on the line, but they didn't keep their promises." More like jizzsticles. Ayo, got him. Got him. Okay. Tentacles. Tentacles. Yeah. Jeffrey fucking Sachs, lauded for proving that radical free market reforms, Jesus, that was bad, could be compatible with democracy, continued to publicly support Yeltsin after his assault on Parliament, dismissing his opponents as a group of former communists intoxicated by power. Those darn communists. In his book, The End of Poverty, in which he gives the definitive account of his involvement in Russia, Sachs completely glossed over this dramatic episode, not mentioning it once, as he left out the state of siege and attacks on labored leaders that accompanied his shock program in Bolivia. Following the coup, Russia was under unchecked dictatorial rule. Its elected bodies were dissolved, the constitutional court was suspended, and the constitution
as was the Constitution, tanks patrolled the streets, a curfew was in effect, and the press faced pervasive censorship, though civil liberties were soon restored. What did the Chicago boys and their Western advisors do at the critical moment? The same thing they did when Santiago smoldered, and the same thing that they would do when Baghdad burned, liberated from the meddling of democracy that went on a lawmaking binge. 3 days after the coup, Sachs observed that up to this point there was no shock therapy because the plan only incoherently and fitfully put into practice was only now there is a chance to do something, he said. And do something they did. These days, Yeltsin's liberal economic team is on a roll, reported Newsweek. The day after the Russian president dissolved parliament, the word came out. Who fucking hears that and like thinks that is a good move? They dissolved parliament. You know what? I'd like to fucking dissolve Congress. You know what? Let's do it. Yeah, I'm sold. We're dissolving Congress. The word came down to the market reforms. Start writing decrees, the magazine quoted jubilant Western economists working closely with the government, who made it absolutely clear that in Russia, democracy is always a hindrance to the market plan. With Parliament out of the way, this is a great time for reform. The economists around here were pretty depressed. Now we're working day and night. Oh my fucking god. Indeed, there seems to be nothing quite as cheering as a coup. As Charles Blitzer, the World Bank chief economist for Russia, told the Wall Street Journal, "I've never had so much fun in my life." Motherfucker. God, I hate men sometimes. The fun was just beginning. With the country reeling from the attack, Yeltsin's own Chicago boys rammed through the most contentious measures of their program. Huge budget cuts, the removal of price controls on basic food items, including bread, and even more and faster privatizations. The standard policies that cause so much instant misery that they seem to require a police state to stave off rebellion. I've got just the solution to dissolve them in. Hey! Hey! You tanky. You fucking tanky. After Yeltsin's coup, Stanley Fischer, first deputy manager. Oh, Jesus Christ! Hold on. This is what fucking Lenin is doing. Like when he's like hearing me read this, just like no. Hey. Okay. So they're advocating for moving as fast as possible, privatization, stabilization, and liberalization. Ugh. Fuck that shit. Change was so rapid that it was almost impossible for Russians to keep up. Workers often did not even know that their factories and mines had been sold, let alone how they'd been sold or to whom. A profound confusion I would witness a decade later in the state-owned factories of Iraq. In theory, all this wheeling and dealing was supposed to create the economic boom that would lift Russia out of desperation. In practice, the communist state was simply replaced with a corporatist one. The beneficiaries of the boom were confined to a small club of Russians, many of them former Communist Party apparatchiks, and a handful of Western mutual fund managers who made dizzying returns
investing in newly privatized Russian companies. The clique of new billionaires, many of whom were to become part of the group universally known as the oligarchs for their imperial levels of wealth and power, teamed up with Yeltsin's Chicago boys and stripped the country of nearly everything of value, moving the enormous profits offshore at a rate of $2 billion a month. Before shock therapy, Russia had no millionaires. By 2003, the number of Russian billionaires had risen to 17, according to Forbes' list. I'm doing chapter, I believe 11. I think this is 11. Yeah, I think it's 11. This is me as Tim Pool. Hold up. I like that little froggy guy. He's cute. The pretty Timble. Thanks. Thanks. Who wore it best? I don't want to do it. Don't make me. Please. Don't make me steal any cats. I'm like deathly allergic to cats. Like my face swells up. My eyes get all like tiny. I can't see out of them. They get puffy. It's a big part of his character. The beanie. I like seriously. Does he have one beanie? Or does he have a lot of beanies that are the same color? These are my questions. No, the cat's up too. Oh, yeah. Cats. The beanie molts. Ew. He just grows a new one out of his head. Like, the beanie is his hair. No cats around. Yeah. Seriously. His head must get warm. No, it's probably all cold up there on account of it's all empty. Hey! Alright, I'll stop picking on the dim pool. Bert, it's cold in here. It's like the Joe Dirt thing. I know this one. The dim tool. It's enmeshed with his skull. The beanie me. This beanie me. This beanie has many Tims. Maybe Tim himself falls out and a new Tim grows from amongst the beanie. Yes? That sounds right. That sounds correct. The beanie came before all of us. Probably. The beanie is like the fucking monster from It. It was like living in the fucking cave. Holy shit, I'm killing myself. Oh, not really. Obviously, Twitch. Please don't get in trouble. Get me in trouble. The beanie is alpha and the omega. So Tim is like fruiting body of a mushroom, and the beanie is the mycelium. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Sounds good. Fucking Tim Pool. I hate him. Abolish Tim Pool. It won't be cockroaches that inherit the earth. It will be that beanie. Oh no. Is it really? Okay, let's see.
I can't possibly have babies because of climate.
Alright, we'll watch it. I need a break from reading. I've been reading a lot.
Right, which is nonsense.
No.
But I do think it's crazy that I'm about to be 34 and I have no family. Because my dad had 2 kids by the time he was 27.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man. You know what the problem is, though? It's definitely not me. I think it's everybody else.
Hold on, let's just see what else is here. Ooh, I want to watch this actually really quick. Let's watch this. We're gonna take a break from that. We're gonna watch this.
This episode and others like it are made possible by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to help support my channel and get early access to every video, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought. I know we're all tired of hearing about coronavirus and would rather just put the last year behind us, but the recent pandemic has now morphed into something entirely different. In the last few months, the narrative around COVID-19 has shifted from how to stop it to where it came from. We're beginning to hear a lot of mainstream news figures, including many who ridiculed the previous administration, adopt very similar language as was used by Trump and his more rabid fans. In this episode, we're going to talk about the resurgence of the lab leak hypothesis, what it means, and discuss the state of biological warfare capabilities around the world. Fairly early in the pandemic, a popular talking point on the political right was that the coronavirus had originated in a Chinese laboratory. Trump presented this hypothesis in his typical crass, casually racist manner, and his fans ate it up. The corporate media and Democratic politicians widely criticized this idea as being unfounded and without evidence, and the prevailing narrative was that the virus originated from animal to human transmission, likely in a marketplace in Wuhan. Now, a year later, the Biden administration has officially launched an inquiry into the lab leak hypothesis, and what had long been dismissed as a QAnon conspiracy theory suddenly became a mainstream liberal talking point. News networks like CNN and MSNBC are conducting daily panel discussions on the history of Chinese secrecy and biological research.
Nice.
While it has been funny to watch conservatives denounce their once dearly held hypothesis because
This is some Red Scare shit, obviously. You guys know.
as liberals have adopted it, the shift in political and media rhetoric should be telling. Let's start with a few facts. Coronavirus most likely originated in Wuhan, China. There is a biological laboratory in Wuhan, which is located very near the markets which were the supposed origin of the disease. From Wuhan, it spread all over the world, with individual nations handling the crisis in their own way, some much more effectively than others. China was not terribly prompt with announcing the spread of the infection, which was irresponsible, though understandable if they thought they could contain it. Over the past year, more than 3.7 million people have died from the virus, the US leading the way with 612,000 deaths, nearly twice the number of the second worst affected country, India. The US COVID response was arguably the worst in the world, especially given the vast resources at our disposal, and hundreds of thousands of deaths could have been prevented if our government had acted promptly and effectively to contain the spread of the virus. So, why have both conservatives and now liberals latched onto the lab leak hypothesis? It has very little to do with finding the truth. In fact, it has everything to do with obscuring it, managing it. And that should be obvious with how quickly those in power have shifted their narrative when it suddenly became convenient for them. Over the last 15 months, we've been fed bits of information only when it was beneficial to American leadership and commercial interests, and not a moment before. First, there was supposed consensus that the virus came from infected bats, that there was no chance it came from a lab, that the US had no advanced knowledge of what was coming. One president leaves, another takes power, and suddenly the narrative completely flips. Now there's a consensus that a lab leak is probable, and that the Chinese tried to cover it up. Where's the truth? Why are elected officials and the corporate media so hell-bent on managing the flow of information to the American people? As usual, it has to do with power. The US is actively gearing up for war with China, and they need to manufacture our consent. This is so obvious that no one should be surprised when it becomes official. We're following the exact same playbook as in the lead-up to the Iraq War. 24/7 media coverage, serious words from politicians about democracy and freedom, the whole 9 yards. But what makes this instance different is that the US is implicated in the shady activity they're trying to pin on China. Now, before we go any further, we need to understand something called gain-of-function research. In biological laboratories, scientists sometimes engage in a particular area of research that involves altering an organism or disease in a way that changes its process of development, transmissibility, or types of carrier. Changes may be too soft a word, as gain-of-function research often aims to increase a pathogen's threat level. You may be thinking, okay, that's terrible. Why would anyone do that? But there is actually some value in this type of study. For example, if scientists managed to alter a pathogen in such a way that allowed it to infect an animal that previously couldn't transmit the disease, it could give them valuable insights into what specific parts of the pathogen cause it to accept certain hosts, which is an important step in developing antiviral medicines which block that function. Of course, this also comes with the risk of creating deadlier, mutant strains of disease that are harder to cure. Gain-of-function research is highly controversial, and with good reason. Theoretically, it could give us a head start on tackling future pandemics. But on the other hand, it could very easily lead to accidental infection and spread of mutant diseases.
Whoops.
This, some independent researchers are beginning to suspect, is what happened with COVID-19. Scientists in biolabs around the world engage in this kind of research, and it's not uncommon for there to be accidents. For example, in the US, the frequency of lab incidents increased from 16 in 2004 to 269 in 2010. This, predictably, stems from a massive expansion in US biolabs both at home and stationed in other countries. The number of biolabs in the US alone increased from 400 in 2004 to 1,500 in 2014. There have been suggestions that Chinese scientists were infected with coronavirus as early as late 2019, well before the pandemic became global news. These allegations have been denied. But what does this have to do with the US investigation? Well, according to some investigative journalists, China was cooperating with United States and World Health Organization officials on gain-of-function research related to the coronavirus. This was a fairly new development, as gain-of-function research had been paused during the Obama administration, but was later restarted under Trump. This is a big deal, not only because it lends credence to the lab leak theory, but because it implicates top World Health Organization scientists as well as high-profile American medical professionals like Dr. Anthony Fauci. If this is actually the case, if the US and China were working together on gain-of-function research on the coronavirus, if the US was funding it as the reporting claims, then it makes perfect sense that the corporate media and both administrations have worked so diligently to control the narrative. They need to keep up the pressure on China to manufacture consent for war, but they don't want the US to be implicated in the crisis. It's damage control. What's particularly suspicious is that the World Health Organization has appointed Peter Daszak, the president of the EcoHealth Alliance, as the primary investigator into the lab leak hypothesis. Why is this suspicious? Because EcoHealth was reportedly the source of the US funding for China's gain-of-function research. That's like having a police station investigate itself for police brutality. They're going to say it didn't happen.
It turns
this
out
is likely
we're all
the US's
good,
way of
folks.
preparing to denounce China for criminal negligence while distancing themselves from the blame. It's
Son of a bitch, you guys. Okay. You realize we're gonna lose a war with China, right? We're gonna lose. No? Wait, so that was a pro lab leak video? Yeah, he's saying Yeah, it could be. Yeah, like that's what he's saying. That I just
No wonder China isn't being cooperative with the US if the investigation really is a sham. To draw a fairly recent parallel, this saga is like the Mueller report all over.
I honestly have no clue what's going on. I don't. I didn't even know that the libs were like trying to say that it was a lab leak anymore. Like I had no idea.
Again, highly publicized, very dramatic, involving high-profile investigations, and will probably yield an inconclusive verdict in the hopes that the public will just kind of accept it and move on. As a side note, some of these details are also being loudly proclaimed by some of the most detestable right-wing figures in America. But they're doing it simply to own the libs. Any real evaluation of the situation must come with a material analysis of power and how it is wielded in the United States. As far as outcomes go, if I had to guess, my money would be on any eventual report being inconclusive, and the US continuing to ramp up its anti-China rhetoric as a prelude to war. I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. Now, while the COVID lab leak hypothesis is the most current example of at least the possibility of deadly viruses escaping containment, it's only symptomatic of a larger problem, and that's the proliferation of global biological weapons capabilities. As I mentioned earlier, since the turn of the century, the US has built hundreds of new biological laboratories, including more than 200 in 25 foreign countries, and that's just the ones we know about. Now, biological weapons are completely prohibited by a 1975 treaty called the Biological and Toxin Weapons Convention, or BT.
And nobody does anything against treaties, like especially that one that we have. It's called the Geneva Code. You remember that fucker? Where you're like not supposed to gas people. Nuclear, baby. Woo! Fucking rads. That's the one. The Geneva Convention. You're not supposed to be able to like tear gas people or like attack medics. And they do that shit like all the time, like everywhere. They don't fucking care. They do not fucking care.
TWC, to which 183 countries are party, including all the major world powers. As of May 2021, there are 10 nations who have neither.
Oh, shoot. Oh, you think that's what it is? That it's just like super convenient right now? You're probably right. I don't know what it is, but like, I'm just gonna assume that they're fucking lying to me. They're always. Wait. They're always fucking lying. They're always Weasley little liars, dude. I can't fucking believe it. Trying to start a war with China. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You're gonna lose that war. You're gonna be really sad about it. You suck.
Since the turn of the century, the US has built hundreds of new biological laboratories, including more than 200 in 25 foreign countries, and that's just the ones we know about. Now, biological weapons are completely prohibited by a 1975 treaty called the Biological and Toxin Weapons Convention, or BTWC, to which 183 countries are party, including all the major world powers. As of May 2021, there are 10 nations who have neither signed nor acceded to the treaty. This short list includes America's favorite ally, Israel, which does not bode well for Palestinians. The BTWC is regarded as perhaps the most important arms treaty of the 21st century, but it has two serious problems. First, formal verification of compliance is not part of the treaty, meaning the whole thing is basically on the honor system. As long as a nation says they're not researching or producing biological weapons, they're good. Second, the treaty does not prohibit defensive biological research. That is, ways in which a nation can combat biological warfare. If there's one thing we know about the United States, it's that everything we do is classified as defense. All our invasions, coups, and wars are always cast as defensive, when they're clearly not. I suspect our defensive biological program is no different. These two failures of the treaty combine to make one very big problem. If nations are allowed to build and maintain hundreds of biological research facilities, and there's no one to confirm that they are indeed defensive, How do you think the deeply distrustful world leaders will see foreign labs? They'll see them as a threat. They'll assume their enemies are concocting deadly biological weapons, and they'll feel pressured to do the same. It's a similar problem to nuclear proliferation. If that country over there has nukes, I better have some too. Except it's worse because unarmed nukes can't silently infect people and escape the—
I thought nukes were already banned, though. Are nukes not banned? War is a racket, yes.
the military base. Pathogens and diseases can. The history of biological weapons is secretive and terrifying. Back in the 60s, the world's major powers had reportedly developed enough bioweapons to kill every single person on Earth. Frankly, we got very lucky. One of the more well-known US biowarfare labs is the top-secret Dugway Proving Ground. Established in 1942 to test biological and chemical weapons, and located on over 800,000 acres of Utah desert, roughly the size of Rhode Island, much of Dugway's history and activity remains a closely guarded secret. But there are some incidents that have become public knowledge. One mistake that made headlines involved a nerve agent known as VX and roughly 6,000 sheep. In March of 1968, a military plane blasted the nerve agent into the air during a test, and the wind carried it some 30 miles to nearby, and aptly named, Skull Valley. Shortly after, 6,249 sheep were found dead or dying. Though the Army has never admitted fault, they compensated the rancher who owned the sheep, and an investigation confirmed that the animals had indeed been poisoned by VX. This wasn't the only mishap involving Dugway. In 2015, it came to light that Dugway officials had accidentally shipped live anthrax to states across the country. Shortly after, it became apparent that the problem was not new, and it sparked an investigation. Dugway's history is riddled with questionable projects, including testing bombs full of fleas, which they would presumably infect with diseases and drop on target populations, or mosquitoes.
What the fuck? Bombs with fleas infected with Lyme disease and shit? What the fuck? That's some fucking, like, dastardly shit. What the fuck?
Infected with inert diseases, which they tested on human subjects, and various biological and chemical weapons originally intended to be deployed during the Korean War. Of course, the US denies that these weapons were ever used in combat. If we know about the weaponized fleas and mosquitoes, I shudder to think of all the projects we don't know about, as Dugway is still a top-secret facility, despite their recent PR attempts such as hosting a trail race on their testing grounds. I would definitely bring some bug spray to that race. Another such facility is Fort Detrick in Maryland. Located on a much more modest 1,200 acres of land, Fort Detrick is no less secretive and dangerous than Dugway. During World War II, personnel at the installation produced 5,000 anthrax bombs for the military, though they were supposedly never used. Between 1945 and 1955, as part of Operation Paperclip, U.S. leadership secretly recruited Nazi scientists to work on U.S. military programs, including chemical and biological warfare. Many ended up at Fort Detrick, including several who had actively participated in heinous medical experiments on concentration camp inmates. Like Dugway, the personnel at Fort Detrick also studied weaponized insects, including ticks, fleas, ants, lice, and especially mosquitoes, which they infected with yellow fever. One author and expert on the subject wrote in 2009 that it's highly likely that the US did employ infected insect weapons during the Korean War to spread disease, as in the fall of 1950, the US Joint Chiefs of Staff had approved their use, quote, at the earliest practicable time. During the 1950s, the installation conducted countless experiments involving biological agents on human subjects.
Oh, I said dead one, socialist activities, so it went to a good place. I learned a little about Army biowar protocols during the end of the Cold War from a dude who was a private in the reserve. Look up the Church Commission. Send me something, Mac. Good old paperclip, I know. Fuck Nazis. Fuck Nazis. I'm frankly flabbergasted that nothing was ever accidentally released in the population. Yellow fever. Also, yeah, we used to fucking, like, MK Ultra, we used to test drugs on people, like, going into their doctor for, like, a stub toe, like, fucking depression, and you'd come out, like, with electroshock therapy, and you can't, like, even hold your bladder anymore. a ton of paper. Oh, shit. Shit, Von Wall.
Subjects, who, according to the official record, were all volunteers. Today, like all the US's biolabs, Fort Detrick supposedly conducts only defensive programs, and has stopped production of any biological or chemical weapons. Hopefully that's actually the case, though I think it's wise to be skeptical. And even if the US and all the other nations party to the treaty have remained honest since the 1970s, the threat of accidental leaks and exposure remains.
Yep, that's another
Case in
good one.
point, activity at Fort Detrick was temporarily suspended in 2019 for numerous
testing.
breaches in protocol and
The nuclear testing that we did in Nevada on the troops. We're like, we love our troops. Now go stand over there.
violations of federal
Turn around.
procedure. In the CDC's report, which contains extensive redacted sections for supposed national security reasons, they cite 6 departures from the federal regulations for handling select agents and toxins, as well as failure to implement biosafety and containment procedures. Biolabs, especially those designated BSL-4, or Biosecurity Level 4, routinely house incredibly dangerous pathogens, including some that have no known cure and have the potential to be far deadlier than COVID. With so many facilities and so much secrecy, leaks are only becoming more likely, and an unwillingness of the involved nations to announce their mistakes will make for disastrous future pandemics. This governmental malpractice is something that everyone, regardless of political beliefs,
Dude, like, we're about to get like a zombie apocalypse. One of these is gonna zombify it, and then we're all gonna be so fucked.
should be against.
We're gonna
Blindly
be so
following
fucked.
your preferred American political
Bikini
tribe is
Atoll,
foolish,
yeah,
as
Bikini
we've seen
Atoll.
clear evidence of Republican and Democratic talking points switching when it becomes convenient for those in power, and the corporate media dutifully promotes their propaganda. This topic is one of those things that sounds conspiratorial when you really get into it. But a little bit of historical reading will show you that reality is often far more bizarre than any conspiracy theory. The things that the world's governments get up to, and the propaganda campaigns they produce, are insidious, sophisticated, and constant. I know this
They
may
are
seem bleak,
evil.
and I know some people think my videos are too depressing, but it's important to be aware of these things. It's not hopeless. There's always something
Not
normal people can do to affect positive change, but it has to start with concrete analysis. Who are the involved players? Who stands
And you know, this dude is like, I mean, this dude works like a lot of commies, so this guy is like super based.
to benefit from a certain narrative? The most critical thing any of us can do is to
He, like,
determine the
partners
fundamental
with,
aspects of any given problem, to understand its inherent contradictions. Only then can we act in a way that is informed and that drives us.
He's like, I don't know, I really like his videos. All right, I'm gonna play this one.
This episode
I don't feel like reading anymore. Actually, I will read the church committee thing because Max sent it. But after this, just videos, and then I'm going to skedaddle. The Church Committee, formerly the United States Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities, was a U.S. Senate Select Committee in 1975 that investigated abuses by the Central Intelligence Agency, National Security Agency, the Letter Boys. Chaired by Idaho Senator Frank Church, the committee was a part of the series of investigations, Jesus Christ, into intelligence abuses in 1975, dubbed the Year of Intelligence. So the most shocking revelation of the committee includes Operation MKUltra, involving the drugging and torturing of unwitting U.S. citizens as part of the human experimentation on mind control. Do you know why they did that? And actually, the first chapter of the Shock Doctrine is about that. And you know why they did that? Because they were thinking that the only reason why people want to be like communism, the only reason why people like communism is because they are brainwashed. And they wanted to do that too. They're like, we have to figure out how the Soviets are brainwashing them. COINTELPRO, involving surveillance and infiltration of American political and right-wing organizations.
Family Jewels, a CIA program that covertly assassinated foreign leaders. Nice. Operation Mockingbird, as a systematic propaganda campaign with domestic and foreign journalists operating as CIA assets and dozens of U.S. organizations providing cover for CIA activity. God damn it. They're journalists. Every journalist is a CIA agent. That's what we're saying now. But, you know, that's another thing that we went over, too, was how, like, the CIA would make Rutgers print, like, things saying that leftists in South America were, like, killing villages of people and stuff. And, like, it was all lies. And it was just to manufacture consent. Obviously. So that's fucking cool. But yeah, hold on, let's see. I want to see if there's a video on that. This looks interesting. We'll watch this and then I'm going to look
Episode was made in collaboration with Our Changing Climate. Be sure to check out their video after this. The world faces a lot of challenges. From poverty, to war, to famine, to disease, our species has a lot of problems that need solving. But there's one problem that is not only incredibly threatening on its own.
Does anybody have like a good video on it? If you have like a good video on the church committee bullshit, like I would love, we can absolutely watch it. Just let me know.
But also makes all the other problems much worse. Climate change, the result of natural atmospheric changes and intense human activity and pollution, poses an existential threat to not only humans, but countless other species around the world. If we're going to mitigate some of the worst effects of climate fallout, we need to start making real changes immediately. Unfortunately, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. In this episode, we're going to talk about the basics of climate change and why capitalism is not a...
Oh wait, hold on. I've heard some Americans are offended that Soviets were the main heroes of World War I. Wait till they know where the high-ranking Nazis went to work after the war. I don't think I'm allowed to have a swastika on my thing, but so we're not going to click on that one. Werner von Braun, head of NASA. Oh, nice. NATO's chief staff, Secretary General of United Nations. Fuck. That's great. Yeah, they all came over. It was cool. And by cool, I mean it was fucking awful. It was garbage. I hate it. Thanks, Merle.
Equipped to handle the crisis. Before we get into the analysis, I think we should start with some simple facts about climate change. I'll start at square zero. Climate change is happening. It is not debatable. Regardless of whether or not you think humans are causing or worsening the problem, you cannot claim that we are not witnessing serious changes to the planet's climate. The evidence is sound and overwhelming. The only detractors are people who are either A, not experts in the field, or B, paid by the oil and gas industry to spread disinformation. Usually both. Even if you're not convinced by the consensus of the entire scientific community, the effects of climate change are something you can see for yourself. I recently visited Majuro in the Marshall Islands as part of a documentary crew. We saw homes literally being consumed by the sea. Islands and coastal regions are going underwater. And this is only one of the side effects of climate change. Okay, I hope we're on the same page here. Climate change is happening, and the fallout is already doing serious damage to communities around the world. There's a certain type of person who always
Oh my god, von Braun founded a university in Alabama? Holy shit!
In the comments of this type of video to say things like, humans have nothing to do with climate change. This is just a normal part of Earth's climate.
How do you expect Nazis to reform if you don't let them be in charge of the UN? No. Okay. All right. That's I get it, but I feel like I don't know.
Cycles. I'm sure there will be some of these people on this video too.
Oh no, you're all gonna
To address
drown?
those people,
No.
you're wrong. And even if you were completely correct, the consequences of the changing climate are so severe that we must take significant steps to mitigate the loss of life and spiraling global crises. Think of it like this. If you're out for a walk and someone is driving straight at you and you're clearly going to be run over, what would you do? You'd do everything in your power to avoid being run over, right? Does it really matter whether the driver is purposely trying to kill you or if their brakes are out? No, because the end result is undesirable either way. The things that led up to you having to avoid getting hit by a car shouldn't factor into your consideration of how to respond. The same is true of climate fallout. So, with that out of the way, let's look at a few basic facts about climate change and its disastrous effects. We'll start with the bad news. Even if we completely stopped emitting greenhouse gases today, we've already set in motion a scenario which will inevitably release more warming agents that have been trapped in ice for thousands or millions of years. This will cause serious problems the world over. Already hot areas will face record heat waves and droughts, which will adversely affect food production. Continued warming and acidification of the world's oceans will destroy fragile ecosystems like coral reefs and threaten fish populations which billions of people rely on for food. Islands and coastal regions are at risk of flooding or complete submersion, as I documented in the Marshall Islands. As warm seasons last longer, disease-carrying insects will become more prevalent and occupy larger areas, infecting countless people with life-threatening illnesses. Farming regions will be at tremendous risk of crop failure as local weather behaves erratically or changes completely. In the developing world, crop failure and drought will combine to create massive water and food shortages, resulting in unspeakable death tolls and the worsening of the world's ongoing poverty and migrant crises. Sooner or later, oil will cease to be the most valuable resource to imperialist nations. It will be replaced by water. When the most basic necessity of life becomes a target for military action and occupation, we will begin to see suffering unlike the human race has ever seen. But this video isn't about all the specific details of climate fallout. I've covered that topic in previous videos if you're interested. What we really need to talk about is how the current dominant economic system presents an insurmountable obstacle to mitigating climate disaster. So, let's take a look at a few of the actions, as determined by the IPCC, which must be taken immediately or at least in the very near future. According to the IPCC's Climate and Land Report, we need to implement comprehensive early warning systems for extreme weather, as well as other observational programs to monitor land use and degradation, biodiversity, and the spread of disease-bearing insects. We need to fund programs that will encourage sustainable land management, which will prevent desertification and famine. We need to invest in land restoration, bringing damaged or endangered soil and biomes back from the brink. We must drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions across all sectors, including oil and gas, agriculture.
Yeah, and then so we need like serious economic planning and like ecological planning, and everyone's like, let's just everyone split up and we'll all just do what's good for us. And I'm like, bruh, we're all gonna die.
Culture, transportation, and leisure. And we need to do all of these things in just a few years to prevent global catastrophe. Now, let's consider the nature of the roadblock that is capitalism. To offer a simple definition, capitalism is an economic system in which the means of production are controlled by private owners and corporations. The primary driver of capitalism is the profit motive, the desire for ever-increasing...
Corporations will stop dumping if we ask them harder.
Profits and the accumulation of capital. It should be obvious that the very premise of capitalism is antithetical to any kind of long-term planning.
Capitalism is the enemy,
If a system demands greater profits every year, if it demands infinite growth, it will inevitably run into the very real problem of existing on a planet with finite resources. If we look at the decisions made by large multinational corporations, say Exxon for example, it's clear that those decisions are made based solely on the amount of short-term profit they will produce. Back in the 70s, when Exxon was at the forefront of climate research, their scientists determined just how detrimental fossil fuels are to the planet. Instead of making this information public and working with policymakers to find a solution, they marked those documents confidential and launched a decades-long propaganda campaign to sow doubt on the effects of greenhouse gas emissions. By doing this, they secured their short-term profits at the expense of the long-term survival of millions of human beings.
The
same is true of giant companies like Amazon.
Listen, you don't fucking get it. They did all of this just for money. They destroyed the human race potentially. They wiped it out, or they cursed it for money. Is this for money? For money? Money? And everyone's like, money's not a problem. Money's fine. Let's not get rid of money.
It'll be fine. We'll do it. You know what we need? You know what we need? Freer market. You know what I say? The freer the market, the freer my asshole. I'm not happy.
Jeff Bezos, Amazon
Abolish
CEO
money!
and the richest person on the planet, could easily afford to make Amazon employees the best paid workers in the world,
BJ.
thereby securing a happy and loyal labor force and positive public perception of the
Thank
company.
you.
Instead, Amazon is among the worst places to work in the
thanks,
country.
Mac.
We routinely hear horror stories about how employees have to pee in bottles because they'll be fired if they take a bathroom break, or how they've had to ignore a coworker who had died on the floor. Reducing overhead by exploiting workers yields greater short-term
If
profits.
one of my
but it
coworkers
turns the
died
public
on
against
the
the
floor,
company.
I would fucking quit. And that's my privilege speaking, but fuck that shit. Hell no.
Causes massive turnover and damages their own long-term survival by ensuring its workers have neither the time nor the disposable income to buy their products. This kind of behavior is common among capitalist companies, including many
Von
smaller
Walls,
ones. Today, it's
spicy.
exceptionally rare to find a job that pays a reasonable salary or offers benefits of any kind. The name of the game is reducing costs to maximize profits. That is the only goal of capitalism. So, if we can't count on capitalism to even take care of the workers that keep the system running, how can we expect it to make provisions for people on the other side of the world, or who haven't even been born yet? The scientific community knows that nothing will get done unless there's a profit to be made, so their reports often contain return on investment timelines and estimates. But if you look at their numbers, there's no way an oil executive or a cruise line CEO would go for it. Sustainable land management programs that might be profitable in 10 years, the cruise and oil industries are incredibly profitable now. Why would they take a reduction in profits when those profits are their sole motivating factor?
They're just not
And
gonna
if the
do
big
it.
lobbies won't go for it, neither will the politicians who rely on their donations. The most damaging industries also just so happen to have the largest political lobbies. They make tremendous profits from exploiting workers at home and abroad, not to mention the limited resources of the earth itself. And they're willing to shell out tens of millions of dollars to fund politicians and propaganda campaigns so they can keep doing it. Even if you're inclined to be optimistic and hope that these people will have a change of heart, just look at the historical record. When multinational companies set up shop in Central America, they made
bureaucracy.
enormous
I
profits.
can't even say that word.
They could have paid
Fuck
their local
everything.
workers a
I'm
good
so
wage,
mad.
or at least a living wage. Instead, they were little more than slaves. The workers were brutalized by corporate paramilitary groups. They had their families threatened if they weren't productive enough. Some parents even received the severed hands of their children if they didn't meet their required quota. If these people were willing to maim or even kill their workers, why would we assume they would be willing to make massive concessions to help mitigate climate fallout? To take a more recent example, I live in Texas.
The temperature is the lowest they've seen in decades.
More than 620,000 waking up without power in Texas this morning.
During the recent winter storm that knocked out the state's power grid, it became clear that deregulation and rampant cost cutting were a major part of the problem. Texas has its own electrical grid, separate from the country's two primary grids. The goal was to completely deregulate the Texas energy market to free it from the evils of bureaucracy. The end result, as we should expect, was rampant corruption, price gouging, and cost cutting. Officials decided not to take precautionary measures like winterproofing our electrical infrastructure. Because of this, millions of Texans lost power, had no access to clean drinking water, and some even froze to death in their own homes. This example is perhaps even more damning than the previous one, because it deals specifically with infrastructure. The majority of climate mitigation measures will be investments in infrastructure. If these critical projects are avoided simply as a way to cut costs, people will die. And unfortunately, I think this negligent behavior is what we need to expect from private corporations and corporate-owned politicians. The only goal of capitalism, the only thing that matters, is profit. Profits must increase every year. The entire history of capitalism is the history of the exploitation of working people, especially by multinational corporations and the US military operating in the global south. Climate change is shaping up to be the single most expensive challenge humanity has ever faced. The world is relying on the wealthiest nations, those that disproportionately contribute to emissions and consumption, to lead the way in fighting climate change. As we've seen in the last decade, there hasn't been a single administration willing to take steps bold enough to meet the challenge. All we've seen is politicians paying lip service to established science while peddling woefully insufficient policies that are rarely acted upon. If we want to ensure a livable future for the human race, we must move past capitalism. Capitalism is incapable of solving the problems it creates. It is entirely beholden to the profit motive, and no amount of flowery language, greenwashing, or reform will ever change that.
Thanks for following.
If you'd like to learn more about the specifics of capitalism and its relationship to the climate crisis, I highly recommend you check out our Changing Climate's companion video. It's a great crash course on the history of capitalist exploitation of the people and the planet. If you enjoyed this video, consider dropping a like. If you hated it, a thumbs down. You can check out my previous videos by clicking the links on your screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.
Okay, now we're gonna watch the thing that, right here.
The senators seemed unimpressed. Perhaps it was because they already knew too much. Each senator arriving with a fat, orange-colored notebook crammed with classified material about the CIA, all marked top secret. After 5 months of closed-door investigation, of talking in private with intelligence agents and officials, most of the senators now agree with Chairman Frank Church that the CIA has indeed been a rogue elephant out of control. So the testimony of Colby didn't allay the suspicion. The hearings took place in the historic Senate caucus room, scene of the dramatic Watergate investigation just 2 years ago. The press was back in great numbers today, but not the public. There were, in fact, no long lines, and the seats reserved for the audience were at times only 2/3 filled. As someone said, after what has happened in this country during the past 2 years, there are no more future shocks. But whether there are shocks or not, today's open hearing did focus major attention on the way the CIA has gone about its business in the United States.
The subject today concerns CIA's involvement in the development of bacteriological warfare materials with the Army's biological laboratory at Fort Detrick, CIA's retention of an amount of shellfish toxin, and CIA's use and investigation of various chemicals and drugs. The relationship between the CIA and the Army Biological Laboratory at Fort Detrick as an activity requiring further investigation surfaced in late April of this year. It resulted from information provided by a CIA officer not directly associated with the project in response to my repeated directives that all past activities which might now be considered questionable be brought to the attention of agency management. Information provided by him and by 2 other officers aware of the project indicated that the project at Fort Detrick involved the development of bacteriological warfare agents, some lethal, and associated delivery systems suitable for clandestine use. A search was made for any records or other information available on the project. This search produced information about the basic agreement between the Army and the CIA relating to the project and some limited records covering its activities from its beginning in 1952 to its termination in 1970. In the course of the investigation, CIA's laboratory storage facilities were searched, and about 11 grams, a little less than half an ounce, of shellfish toxin and 8 milligrams of cobra venom were discovered in a little-used, vaulted storeroom in an agency building. A major early requirement of the agency was to find a replacement for the standard cyanide L pill issued to agents in hazardous situations during World War II. This was the basis on which eventually we discovered the shellfish toxin. The only application of this toxin was in the U-2 flight over the USSR in May 1960, during which Gary Powers carried such a device concealed in a silver dollar. In the Powers case, the grooves of the drill were filled with shellfish toxin. He obviously did not use it and was not instructed to do so. It was offered to him to provide him with an option. The Powers flight was the only time we are aware that the toxin was provided for operational use, although the L pill was made available for earlier flights. The primary agency interest was in the development of dissemination devices to be used with standard chemicals off the shelf. Various dissemination devices, such as a fountain pen dart launcher and an engine head bolt designed to release when heated, appeared to be peculiarly suited for clandestine use. Available records do not indicate that all specific items were developed exclusively for the CIA, as work on similar devices was also done for the Army. At the time the toxin was found, the officer responsible for the project in 1970 stated that he had no recollection as to how it got there. On the 30th of June, discussions were held with a retired agency officer who had provided the initial lead. This man, who had been the GS-15 branch chief in 1970, stated that the toxin had in fact been moved from Fort Detrick and stored in the laboratory. This was done on the basis of his own decision after conversations with the responsible project officer. He further stated that he made this decision based on the fact that the cost and difficulty of isolating the shellfish toxin were so great that it simply made no sense to destroy it, particularly when there would be no future source of such toxin. The current branch chief believes this explanation is correct, but still does not recall the actual act of receiving the material from Fort Detrick. Both of these middle grade officers agree that no one, including their immediate superior, was told of the retention of the shellfish toxin.
If that amount of shellfish toxin were administered orally, which is one of the least efficient ways for administering it in terms of its lethality, that quantity was sufficient to kill at least 14,000 people. If it were administered with the sophisticated equipment that was found in the laboratory, that quantity would be sufficient to kill a great many more. Estimates vary upwards into the hundreds of thousands. Now, my first question is, why did the agency prepare a shellfish toxin for which there is no practical antidote, which attacks the nervous system and brings on death very quickly? Why did the agency prepare toxins of this character in quantities sufficient to kill many thousands of people? What was the need for that in the first place, long before the presidential order came down to destroy this material?
I think the first part of the answer to that question, Mr. Chairman, is the fact that the L pill, which was developed during World War II, does take some time to work and is particularly agonizing to the subject who uses it. Some of the people who would be natural requesters of such a capability for their own protection and the protection of their fellow agents really would not want to face that kind of a fate. But if they could be given an instantaneous one, they would accept that. And that was the thought process behind developing the capability. Now, I cannot explain why that quantity was developed, except that this was a collaboration that we were engaged in with the United States Army, and we did develop this particular weapon, you might say, as a for possible use. When CIA retained the amount that it did, it obviously did it improperly.
This quantity and the various devices for administering the toxin that were found in the laboratory certainly make it clear that purely defensive uses were not what the agency was limited to in any way. There were definite offensive uses. In fact, there were dart guns. You mentioned suicides. Well, I don't think a suicide is usually accomplished with a dart, particularly a gun that can place the dart in a human target in such a way that he doesn't even know that he's been hit.
There's no question about it. It was also for offensive reasons. No question.
Have you brought with you some of those devices which would have enabled the CIA to use this poison for?
We have indeed.
For killing people? Don't point it at me. I wonder if can we roll that over? Does this pistol fire the dart?
Yes, it does, Mr. Chairman. The round thing at the top is obviously the sight. The rest of it is what is practically a normal 45, although it's special. However, it works by electricity. There's a battery in the handle, and it fires a small dart.
So that when it fires silently?
Almost silently, yes. Very little.
What range does it have?
100 meters. 100 meters, I believe, about 100 yards, 100 meters.
About 100 meters range.
Right.
And the dart itself, when it strikes the target, does the target know that he's been hit and about to die?
That depends, Mr. Chairman, on the particular dart used. There are different kinds of these flechettes that were used in various weapon systems, and a special one was developed which potentially would be able to enter the target without perception.
Without perception?
Right.
And did you find such darts in the library, in the laboratory?
We did.
Yes. Isn't it true, too, that the effort not only involved designing a gun that could strike a human target without knowledge of the person who'd been struck, but also the toxin itself would not appear in the autopsy?
Well, there was an attempt.
Or the dart?
Yes, so that there was no way of perceiving that the target was hit.
As a murder instrument, that's about as efficient as you can get, isn't it?
It is a weapon, a very serious weapon.
This record seems to disclose an additional concession, namely the lack of accountability, so that we not only have a secret agency, but we have an agency about which there's some question as to its accountability to the authority of the President or to the authority of the National Security Council. The record seems to disclose that there is no Presidential or Security Council order in the first place directing the CIA to establish this program at all. Secondly, there appears to be no report by the CIA to higher authority of the existence of these toxins or biological weapons. Thirdly, there seems to be no evidence that those in charge of the CIA inquired of subordinates as to the existence of toxins or biological weapons, or that following the presidential order decreeing...
Have I been muted this whole time? I've been muted this whole time. That is so funny. Oh my god. It doesn't matter. What I was saying wasn't really that important. It's fine.
That any formal order went forth within the CIA to require their destruction.
Thanks, Bork.
Moreover, the record seems to support the notion that it was only by chance...
Excuse you. Don't laugh at me, Comrade Comer. You're not supposed to come in for this. I was doing better stuff earlier. God damn it.
...chance that the leadership of the CIA became aware some years later of even the existence of these lethal toxins, which were in violation of a direct presidential order. In short, the record's a mess.
Thanks a lot.
And we may never know just exactly what happened.
No one has interviewed Gottlieb as to why he destroyed the material or what they can say, the records.
No, we have not interviewed him as to the reason.
You know what documents he destroyed?
We're very unsure as to the total. We do not have an inventory of them.
Do you think they might have said who it was authorized the formulation or the retention of this stuff? Do you have any reason to think it might or might not contain that information?
In this case, I doubt that it would have very much, because this case indicates, from the evidence we have at hand...
Does it say anything? Have any reason to think that it might say how, if at all, this
Thanks for coming to say hi.
material was used in an aggressive way against someone to kill someone?
Well, there may well be some of that.
When was the documentation destroyed?
In 1973.
It didn't happen to be destroyed at the same time those tapes.
1972. 1972.
1972. When in 1972?
In November, I believe it was.
In November of 72. Do you have any idea what volume of records were destroyed?
I do not know.
Do you know who authorized the destruction, if anyone?
As I said, there was a memorandum of agreement between the director and Mr. Gottlieb at that time.
And the director at that time was?
Mr. Helms.
Mr. Helms is here in this room, I believe, Mr. Chairman, and I take it we'll have an opportunity to hear from him.
Mr. Helms will be our witness tomorrow morning's hearings. I believe he's the lead-off witness.
I won't prolong my opportunity to examine the witness much longer, Mr. Chairman. I understand we're going to try to operate under the 10-minute rule. May I ask you only this other question?
We are watching the church committee hearings about the CIA. They
they were just talking about a secret weapon, which when you shoot at people, it's completely, like, it's virtually silent, and it will poison you to death, and it will leave no trace of toxin. Yeah, and that's just owned by the CIA. No big deal. In 1975, no big deal. It's not a big deal.
And in general, Mr. Goldie, you've heard of the doctrine of plausible deniability.
Yes, and I've rejected it now, Senator. I say that we cannot depend upon that anymore.
Because we were talking about, like, just how the shit, they gaslight us, you know? Freaking, what were we talking about? How they're doing, like, the Red Scare, you know? Now the liberals say that Wuhan lab is where the virus came from. Now it was leaked from a lab or something. I don't even know what's happening with that, but it's some bullshit.
The question I was going to put to you is
Heart
that
attack
phrase
gun.
of art in the intelligence community, does it have a separate significance that you understand?
Good old chemical
It
weapons.
was a rationale used in earlier years.
What does it
if
mean?
the United States could deny something and not be clearly demonstrated as having said something falsely, then the United States could do so.
In the case of assassinations, in the case of any other of domestic surveillance, in the case of the formulation of poisons, under that previous rationale, would the doctrine of plausible deniability have led the agency to destroy records, to conceal evidence, or to compartmentalize to the point where it would be a committee such as this later would have been unable to establish what really happened?
I think the plausible denial concept was used in the sense of international diplomatic relationships.
Are you saying by that it would not have applied to the formulation of toxic materials?
I would not say that it didn't have anything to do with it at all, but I think that the basic rationale for the doctrine of plausible denial was so that our nation could deny something and not be
I'm about
tagged
to be
with.
finished, though.
Colby, can you be absolutely sure that
After this video.
there aren't other vaults containing poison somewhere in this town or in this country or in our possession in some part of the world?
I can't be absolutely sure, no, Senator. We obviously are conducting such investigations and have issued such orders as are possible, but I cannot be absolutely sure that some officer somewhere has not sequestered something.
Could you, as concisely as possible, state for the committee your understanding of the practice of compartmentalization?
Well, the compartmentation practice is merely the strict application of the need-to-know principle. If an employee in the intelligence business needs to know something in order to do his job, then he has a right to the information. But if he does not need to know that particular information, he does not have a right to the information. And if the information is one which is required for large numbers of employees, well, then large numbers of employees will be allowed to know it. If the particular activity is a very sensitive matter and only a very few employees need to know it,
Yeah, Fresno, of course.
then it will be known to only a very few employees. We make a particular effort to keep the identities of our sources
I know,
and some of our more complicated technical systems restricted very sharply to the people who actually need to work on them, and many of the rest of the people in the agency know nothing about them.
Does that need-to-know principle apply in cases of sensitivity to the Director of Central Intelligence?
Certainly not. It does not, with one exception. I do not believe I need to know the name of an agent in some foreign country who's serving us at the risk of his life. I know he's there. I know what kind of a person he is, but I do not need to know his actual name, and I've kept that out of my knowledge because I travel and I don't want to know that.
These fucking liars, dude. They're all measly little liars, dude. They're always fucking lying. When do they stop lying? I don't know. What the fuck? No, it's a brand new couch, okay? So he hasn't even stepped foot on it yet. So
Yeah, the CIA fucking lies, dude. They don't even care, they just fucking lie.
Kind of a thing, but that's the only area that I would apply it to. I am responsible for everything that happens in the agency. I need to know everything that happens in the agency.
We've spoken rather extensively here about
apparent lack of clear lines.
Sir, you are lying to your audience. You're literally fucking still lying to your audience. Weasley fucking liar, dude.
Authority running downward and commensurate clear lines of responsibility and accountability running upward. To the best of your knowledge, has there been any pervasive non-compliance
Thanks, Smith. Thanks.
in the matter of orders from directives from the President or orders from the DCI on the part of subordinates? In other words, has this
The Weasley liar
reached a greater proportion than might even have been revealed here
Yeah, they do.
as a
You're
result of our discovery of a very, I think, significant instance of insubordination? If indeed it has been pervasive, isn't there a need for much tighter controls at the top?
Senator Tower, I believe that we are really, we have in CIA a very tight discipline. I'm not saying it's total, obviously. It did not work in this case. But I think with the people scattered around the world doing very sensitive work, doing highly compartmented work, there has been indeed a very high sense of discipline in the organization and a high sense of compliance to the regulations and the rules and the directives of the organization. And I think that the leadership of the organization has always felt very much subject to direct presidential control and responsive to it.
So you would say actually that this instance is an exception to the rule, that ordinarily the discipline has been good, that the control has worked and the accountability has worked in the way that it should according to proper cardinals of good administration.
In the business in which we are in, the intelligence and covert operations, I think there have been very few cases in which the agency has, or its employees have done something that they should not have. And in many of the cases which we now question, we find that those activities were approved by the appropriate authorities at that time, that the sense of discipline within the organization seemed to be quite tight.
Senator Goldwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only have one question, Mr. Colby, but I have a short statement I'd like to make to you. Criticism and analysis are important ingredients in making our democracy work. However, we are now approaching the point where both are being abused to the point of self-destruction. I submit we must get out of the morass of doubt and pessimism into which we have sunk. We must not let the quarrels of the past interfere with building for the future. A tidal wave of criticism has swept over the intelligence community of our country, much of which is mistaken or unwarranted. The damage is severe. If continued, its survival is uncertain. Before this committee have appeared men of the CIA, both on active duty and retired. All have been impressive because of their dedication and loyalty. Nothing we have heard detracts from the reputation of the CIA as a highly competent organization. The men and women of the CIA are doing a great job under very trying conditions. And I say to them, as our nation gets back on course, I believe there will be change.
You guys, the CIA is doing a really hard job, okay? So just let them have their non-traceable poison dart gun, okay? Come on!
For the better, and ask you to hold on until that happens. You are never more needed by this country than right now, and as one American I'm proud of you. To those young people who may be looking for careers and who have a desire for public service, I can think of no better way to serve your nation than as an intelligence officer. Many skills are required to keep the CIA a useful and productive organization. Continuity is vital to America. Now, Mr. Colby.
Senator Goldwater, if I may, on behalf of our employees, thank you for that statement. They are under a lot of pressure these days, and they will appreciate that.
Well, the question I have to ask you, have other countries developed bacterial warfare ability?
Oh, certainly, Senator. That is one aspect of bacteriological warfare that the President's directive in 1969 and 70 tells CIA to continue, and that is to follow the activities of other nations, that we will see the capabilities and activities of other nations in this field. And we have some officers who do follow these activities abroad, and they are quite general. There are some very dubious areas where we're just not sure of what the actual capabilities are in some respects. But we do follow it indeed, and there is extensive effort done by other nations in this line.
But you are now prevented from...
No, we can follow the foreign ones. That is no problem.
But can you do anything to offset them?
Well, I think the defense against those possible things is a matter for the Department of Defense, Senator.
You feel you're safe in that field?
Well, I think in collaboration with the Department of Defense and advising the Department of Defense of foreign developments in this area, we are giving them the basis for developing such defensive efforts as we need.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Goldwater. Senator Morgan.
And all of these fucking assholes, they're just totally chill about this. Like, this is not right. This is not right. And everyone's just so fucking chill.
Mr. Kobe, since this is the
They're
first
talking about,
public
like,
hearing
torture
of this
and
committee, I
secret
think
murder
we should note that
by the state.
we feel, and I certainly feel, that the role played by the Central Intelligence Agency is a very vital one and a very important one. I think the fact that you quoted from President Kennedy, who said that quite often our failures are trumpeted and our successes go unheralded,
Dubious areas.
appropriate
Yeah.
here. This committee has been told by witnesses that had the Central Intelligence Agency existed prior to World War II,
Absolutely.
Pearl Harbor might never have happened. Or if it had happened, the loss of in deaths and property might have been much less. So I want you to know that we do recognize the role of the Central Intelligence Agency. We recognize the fact that we in this country must be able to know in advance what our potential adversaries and potential enemies may be planning so that we can cope with them. So I do think that it is important. I believe, Mr. Kobe, most of the questions have been asked, except that earlier the reference was made to the presidential order, and we alluded to what was, in fact, I think, the press release concerning the presidential order. But as I read the presidential order, I find that this statement, United States bacteriological and biological programs will be confined to research and development for defensive purposes, immunization, safety measures, etc. This does not preclude research into those offensive aspects of bacteriological, biological agents necessary to determine what defensive measures are required. Now, earlier you stated you thought it might have been the mentality of those who made the decision to keep these toxins, that they might be needed in order to develop defensive weapons. Do you think, if that was their thinking, that it would be in keeping with the presidential order, as I just read it to you?
Well, we looked at that. I think that you might be able to make a case for that, Senator, if you were actively involved and had responsibilities for these defensive measures. But as I think
Look at this old dude just like chiefing on this like pipe.
the chairman pointed out, the quantities maintained by CIA are difficult to defend under that directive.
What was your position with the CIA at that time, Mr. Kobe?
In 1970, I was on detached service. I was assigned to the Department of State in Vietnam.
Then you had nothing to do with retaining these toxins?
No, I had nothing.
This
And,
episode
you
is
knew
brought to
nothing
you by
about them
curiosity.
until you made the...
I
Until we
believe
discovered
him.
it this in May.
I would commend you, Mr. Kobe, again for taking these steps to determine what has happened. I think most men in the CIA...
Okay, I can't even do it. They're just a bunch of fucking liars. Oh, and I quit reading because I didn't feel like reading, so we'll finish that later. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.